Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We are going to have an incredible show for you tonight because lawyer Ivan Hannel will be here tonight. We're going to talk about UFOs. We're going to talk about disclosure, whistleblowers, and many much more from the legal standpoint. We're going to have a good time with him for the first 2 hours of the show. Then in hour number 3, it'll be Swamp Dweller and Lee Strauss will join us as well. But first, we have to say hello to each and every one of you in our YouTube chat room so far, as we have SJ in the gold medal position, T-Bone with a silver, Tim Mothman and his goatee with a bronze medal tonight. Kitty Cattywhack, how are you? Mel WD-40 is here lubing us up for tonight's show because you can't talk UFOs without being nice and lubed, so thank you, Mel, for doing that for us. Race Fan, how you doing? Robert Lamoth, or make that Robert. Yeah, Robert Lamoth, sorry. Necessary Dialogue, thank you for coming on in. Trucker Andrew is here. Trucker Andrew will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Southern Sierra, otherwise known as Doubleday, how you doing? Good to have you back. NT, thanks for coming on in as we continue to scroll on down on our roll call tonight. Road Flare, how are you? Thanks for joining us. Mantid Hybrid, welcome to SOR Chat. JSCO and United We Stand, thank you for joining us. Carol Amario and Luscious Jules, good to see you both here tonight. Let us continue on with our roll call as we scroll on down next to, well, there's a big conversation happening. I'm not privy to it, apparently. And who's next? Deborah Rooney, thank you for joining us. You looking lovely tonight. And who else is here? Let's say hello to Karen of the Woo Train. Jerence Carter, nice to see you. As my computer just jumped, and now we got to scroll back up. Okay, we were there. And I hate it when this chat room jumps like that. Messes me all up. And let's continue on. All right. We say hello to Thomas Rock. Alien Critter is here. Alien Critter will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Desert Rat, how are you doing tonight? Thank you for joining us as we continue on with our roll call. Paul Nicholas, Pam Harris, thank you for tuning us on in. And let us scroll on down next. Where are we going? Well, we're going to say hello to Amanda. Thank you for coming on in. And Bob Thorson, nice to see you. Roll call continues with Rono How you doing, buddy? Lulu Bell, thank you for coming on in as we continue on with our roll call. The Dog Father over on X. It's been a while. Thank you for joining us. Zenoka, welcome to SOR Chat. And Deanna Ann, looking lovely tonight. Whistling Mike, good to see you as we scroll on down on our roll call. G Truth Seeker, nice to have you here. We are caught up. Just like that. We are caught up. I'm going to get the radio side going. I'm just going to turn around here. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're going to have a great, intelligent conversation about UFOs. Lawyer Ivan Hannel is here tonight. We are going to get into it. See where this is going. From a lawyer's perspective, this is a unique perspective for this show today. So we are going to have a lot of fun tonight. We are on roll call right now on our YouTube side as we say hello to Jeff Steve Garvey. He'll hit a home run for you. And I want to remind all of you, the super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Hi there, Bad Cop. How you doing? Thank you for coming on in. Signs of Life. Nice to see you. Of course, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store on our website, spacedoutradio.com. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So make sure you check it on out and grab yourself some gear. It always will look good on you, and you can wear it in public. Also, September 18th through 20th, you can get your VIP tickets right now for Caribou Con, first annual, right here in 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. CaribouCon.com. CaribooCon.com. Aussie Boss Tiger, how are you doing? Millennium, my man, throw those horns up. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Shush. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears towards the little cabin in the woods. We're together. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Tonight, we're going down a different UFO road as we are going to get a lawyer's perspective on this UAP/UFO topic. Ivan Hannel will join us momentarily. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller will kick things off with a spooky story. Then extra small Lee Strauss will be here for the Q&A. So make sure you stick with us for the full 3 hours. Ivan Hannel is a U.S. attorney who has become a prominent legal voice in the modern UAP disclosure movement. Best known for representing Lou Elizondo, the former Pentagon official who ran the AATIP program. In interviews and podcasts, Ivan offers legal insight into government transparency, whistleblower protections, and the challenges of navigating classified information, helping audiences like ours understand the complex intersection of law, national security, and unidentified aerial phenomena. This guy knows a lot. He is somebody who is on the outside looking in of the UFOs, but he's also on the inside trying to help people bring this topic more to light. So let's just bring him on in. Ivan Hannel, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. Good to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks very much. Can you hear me okay?
You sound absolutely stunning.
Oh,
Stunning.
great. Thanks.
I want to say thank you for doing this because you're in a unique position because there's not a lot of people like you out there, lawyers who are attracted to this type of topic and discussion. Why did you decide to dip your feet into the UFO pool?
You know, first of all, there are actually more lawyers than you think or know who do have an interest in this. They tend to be quiet, frankly, because, it's just not in their personal best interest to sound like a kook, frankly, and give any attention to it, publicly. So I know there are lawyers out there. I mean, I'm not just talking a handful. I'm talking, a number who would be interested. But there is a stigma about this topic because, unlike most of perhaps your audience, most, and I don't know that many of those lawyers are experiencers or have had some phenomenal experience, but they are curious about it, or maybe some have. I don't really poll that. But I know, people who've had experiences, people have not, but, anyway, the point is that there are more lawyers than you think. But they just stay away from it because, it's seen as kind of kooky, not serious, that there's no real issues there. And so they're not, so they're out there and I, in fact, I got an email from one the other day and he wants to talk and I'll talk with him. So, I mean, I think there's more lawyers than you think. As far as my personal interest in it, it was just kind of an organic thing. I wasn't really interested in it as a whole. It wasn't that I ever thought it wasn't possible that there were, UFOs or whatever, but, and I remember my mom, I mean, I think I've told this before, but, my mom was a big fan of In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy. And, so from back in the day, cause I'm 54, so almost 55 actually. So, so it was sort of an organic thing. And then, the New York Times article, 2017 sort of prompted more serious consideration. I thought, well, that's weird. I mean, the US government really does, think these things might be something, or at least somebody does. Obviously government's a big organization, so it was, a little still, I was like, well, we'll see. And I don't know, it just kind of grew organically. I began watching some podcasts, looking around, listening to different things, and, just became curious like anybody else. So it was just a curiosity thing. But from my perspective, although it sounds a little different, I just, I wasn't super interested necessarily in the UFOs. As strange as that sounds, I was more interested in sort of what was going on in government, what to engage this. Why would they be doing so? Why weren't they being more transparent? What could be possibly going on? So, I mean, yeah, there was a fascination with, well, are there these things called UFOs? And I don't call them UAPs anymore. I think that was a dumb move, but, yeah, and it's funny. It's like the big bureaucratic mindset, whoever it was. And I don't even recall who coined the term. I think under a good intention and a desire to be precise. And, in the government, we could talk about the renaming of how silly that was, but regardless, so it was an organic process. And just like anybody else, I became curious and just decided to learn more, and eventually, learned a lot more and got myself involved in a weird misadventure or adventure. And, it's been an interesting journey. So life is, I've always had a weird way of going about life, and it's worked out really well, but it's taken me on a lot of I think adventures, and this is one of them. So pretty much like everybody else, I think. I mean, I'm not an experiencer, so I don't come at from from that point of view, so different than yourself, for example, I'd say, but nothing remarkable, in that respect. Just more of a general curiosity plus a commitment or a belief that that in general, I think government should be responsive to the people. And, this is a source of curiosity. It could have profound implications. Now, I'm not necessarily positive about the idea of disclosure myself personally, but which we could talk about at some point. But I mean, for different reasons than probably most people have. But, nevertheless, it was just an organic thing. I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's like, how do you become, when you try to retrace the origins of what you became, why'd you become a lawyer, or why'd you train martial arts for, mixed martial arts for 20 plus years? I could give you sort of seminal moments, which, led to why I did what I did, but really it's very hard to explain our own behavior, even to ourselves. I'm almost reconstructing the story of myself for you, not knowing what it really is. So it's a weird approach. I don't know how to explain it, to be honest with you.
I think you're doing a great job with that, because everybody has a unique perspective as to why they are coming into this field. Some of us are experiencers, and we take it very personally with what's happening, because we do want to know. There are others out there who have genuine curiosity. It's a field that can hold many, many different facets of ufology. I love the fact that you have delved into this for yourself, though. I mean, you have seen an entirely different side of ufology, from more the back end of everything. It's kind of like, when you're going to buy a car, everybody looks at the outside, but very few actually lift up the hood and check out the engine. And that's what I kind of, think about you, is you're the guy who's helping the engine run behind the scenes. Maybe that's a little bit too aloof a comment, but I think you've seen what's really underneath. And how did you build that trust with people like Lou Elizondo or others to be able to open that door and see what's actually truly there?
I mean, boy, that's an interesting question. How did I build the trust is, I guess, more the specific question you're asking. Look, I mean, I am a lawyer. I do litigation pretty much every day. So I kind of, I mean, that's what I really do. I'm like a practicing civil attorney with all sorts of cases involving, sometimes small cases, sometimes, double-digit $1 million, expensive cases. And so I think the way you build trust is, is to just talk directly. One of my flaws, perhaps, but is that I'm very direct. And, not trying to be rude to people, but I just call things like I see them. And so I don't know, there's something about it. And I don't know why this has always been the way, but when I talk to people individually, they tend to tell me, the truth, their truth. And whether it is the truth, I don't know. But I tend to find, I know about them. I learn about them quickly. People will admit, wild things to me, not necessarily, bad things, but just very personal things. And so I think in that kind of same spirit, I try to listen to people and hear their stories and understand why they're, presenting some information, how they came to their perspective, what facts they're relying on, what doubts do they have, what are their own curiosities and fears, and treating them like real people, not just sort of abstract problems. But I mean, there's a degree of that too, because law is a complex, very nuanced and technical thing. But I think if you treat people well and you respect them, for their whole person, and treat them holistically, not just like a client per se. I mean, I'm friends with a lot of my clients, although some of the clients are, not necessarily in the UFO world, but they're challenging because of the problems and situations they've found themselves in. So I think it's more of a, I guess if I would say it's to the extent that I've had any engagement in ufology, or whatever you want to call it, the UFO community. I know people get real sticklers on like ufology is a study of UFOs, but I just refer to it as kind of the whole thing. I think it's more of I don't know, a personality or a tone or a sense of caring, because I care about all my clients, and I care about even people who are, potential clients or just people. I want to help people out generally and make things better. I'm not really, this isn't for me. I mean, I'm 54. I have plenty of business, I have businesses outside of law. I practice law. Even if I had even if somebody gave me $1 billion tomorrow, I'd still practice law. I think I'd hate myself, but I'd still keep doing the same thing, because resolving problems and getting people to move forward and, maximizing happiness and bringing knowledge and information to people is, I think, the sort of the central purpose of my life. I don't need anything more. I'm not a particularly acquisitive person. So, I think it's more of a personality thing, plus sort of a vocation. I was thinking about it today. It's maybe sort of just a vocation, right? Like not just something you do because you have the skill, or something you do because of money, or something you do to, it's because you want to actually help people out who need help. And unfortunately, there were quite a few people in the field of ufology which had, issues of one kind or another. And, that's where I came in to exercise my skill, such as they are.
What do you love about this subject? What drives you about it?
Well, I mean, boy, it's hard to say what I love about it anymore, because I don't really love it. But what drives me about it, or that was kind of maybe a past tense question, but at the moment, or at least I'd say initially, at least, it was the belief that through this topic, maybe we could get some bipartisan leadership and bring unity to the polity of America, the political entity of America, the institutions of America, which seem to have fallen apart. And that was really my driving goal. It was more like, here's an issue that's nonpartisan or bipartisan or whatever you want to call it. And it would be something that, we could be proud of and make some progress on and resolve, so many different things. The mystery of what is now, what is here, what is tomorrow, what do we want for ourselves? How should we treat each other? What is the nature of reality? Can we even comprehend that? I mean, there were a lot of driving questions, it's more towards the ontology, I guess, of things, but just, the genuine desire to help, people unify on a topic that I thought would, at least as speculative and strange it might be an astounding moment for humanity. And I think there will come a time. I don't think we're likely alone in the universe, although whether at this moment we're being, visited or whatever you want to call it, I don't know, but whatever they, and you may have a different perspective because most experiencers do, obviously, and it's one I can't, take for myself. I'm just not an experiencer, but so it was really more from a belief that we need to do things for, to help America and the United States move forward in being a community and being a union and being a nation again. But unfortunately, ufology is not the place to look for that kind of communion or progress at this point in time, for a variety of reasons. But in any event, that was the driving motivation, was really to, and also, frankly, over time, even though I've had no experiences and it's very hard for me to, I can understand what people who are experiencers like yourself have said about their experiences. And I actually believe them. I believe, you and others are telling your truth, such as it is, because, I think most of them aren't crazy or anything like that. However, it is one of those things that must be probably experienced. There's that, famous essay by, I think, Nagel, the philosopher, about like what it's like to be a bat. How can you really know what it's like to be something else? And I really find it hard to put myself in the view of the experiencers. But for those people who claim those experiences, I think to the extent that we can resolve some answers and figure things out, I think they deserve it. So so that would be my, strangely enough, although I don't get into any of that, that would be a constituency that I would want to help if I could. Certainly anybody who's been harmed in any way due to whatever malfeasance might be going on. Certainly those people don't deserve that. So, I guess, it's the same old thing which drives you to be a lawyer, or at least me, which is, trying to do the right thing, bring people together, do good things together, and make this country better, because it's in a bad spot. It's been a bad spot for many decades, certainly seems like we've had a lot, especially much more so recently. But so, yeah, that was it. I don't know. It's not probably the best answer. It's pretty, discursive, but it was just an idea of helping people and trying to bring some unity. But unfortunately, alas, that does not happen. So it is what it is.
How many people are you advising or representing in this field?
I would say, a limited number. I'm not going to, just a few, really. There's many who I give advice to, and I, if somebody asked me about what somebody else said, I would have to say no, attorney-client privilege, because people come to me with all sorts of questions that they don't want to be, they wouldn't want public or known, maybe I wouldn't know why, but they don't, so a number, I know a lot of the people, and, but only a few are really being provided with what I would call real legal advice, like something where there's a germane legal issue front and center that we have to look at. And thankfully that's been, or maybe not thankfully, but in any event, it's just a few, but I talk quite broadly with people, and there's a lot of people out there, and I don't name names just because, what's the point of that? First of all, it'd be a legal wrong. I take a pretty strong stance on, following the rules of professional conduct. for an attorney, and thus, I don't get into certain things, but anyway, yeah. So a number of people, I have a pretty broad group of people who I communicate with. Many are friends or become friends or good acquaintances. And, to the extent that they have legal issues, sometimes not related to ufology, sometimes related to personal matters, but that are meaningful to them. I try to help out as best I can, obviously, within the parameters of all the rules, because, I'm not a Virginia attorney, so I can only speculate on Virginia law. But in any event, yeah. So it's a kind of a broad group of people, and but I can't go further than that and say it's exactly 7 people, because it would just be a lot of people out there. Yeah.
We have 4 minutes to go before we have
Sure.
to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Ivan Hannel is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Ivan, as you look at this field, you had said that geez, it's hard for you to find things that you like about this field. What don't you like?
Oh boy, that's going to be a long list. But I wouldn't want to, discredit it as a whole. I think many of the problems come with, so many things. Boy, it's like, where do I start? But I can start. I think some of the things I really don't like is I think many of the people who are interested in the topic really come at it from an acquisitive perspective, in the sense that they're not really, they're driven by all the, 7 deadly sins. They're driven by greed or desire for power, or, just, there's a lot of control freaks in this, in ufology behind the scenes. Many of the people who you find your heroes, and of course, I'm not talking about Lou. I just want to be very clear about that. He's a great person, and I can't say enough about him. I know people have problems with him and so on, and he does have his flaws. That's like any human being, but he's actually a generally very decent human being, and I wouldn't represent it if I didn't think so. Nevertheless, so exempting him. And by the way, I just always add, I don't speak for Lou. Lou doesn't speak for me. We're 2 adult men, and he speaks for himself. I can represent some things that I maybe, could I think speculate upon, but I always just talk for myself. But the degree to which the human being has been corrupted or brings its traditional, corruption to this topic is unabated. And so the lack of ethics, the lack of morality, the lack of courage, the cowardice I have seen is astronomical. And so I don't think very highly, frankly, of many of the people in the field that you all consider your heroes, because I've seen them behind the scenes. And although for a variety of reasons, I tend to keep mostly silent about things, maybe through illusion or metaphor, but and also I don't like to cause people pain in general. There's no, even if somebody's a jerk or selfish person or a lunatic, I don't make it my business to, to harm people. But, they come in if they do things that I think cross a line, I have no hesitancy in engaging them. So I think the field is corrupt, but not in the, in the way that everybody thinks that, they're being harassed. Gosh, just that stuff is just insanity and silliness. It's more just your typical people who are just absolute control freaks and want to impose their version of reality on others without giving them a voice. And that's what's actually happening. And, but in this very partisan, taking sides, lack of using sort of reasonable thinking, lack of being able to articulate, or what they call steel man, the other side's best argument. I could go on in a thousand things. So I don't think of it. I don't think much of it is a field, frankly. But although there are very smart people and very kind people and very nice people and very well-meaning people and people who suffered and people who have had challenges. From what I've seen just the typical, 7 deadly sins arise, and it's unfortunate. Yeah.
I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because we are going to go to break at the bottom of the hour here on Spaced Out Radio. Ivan Hannel, lawyer extraordinaire, is our guest tonight on the show. When we return, we're going to ask him about disclosure, about what's really hiding. What's the secrets? He may know, he may not. But if we don't ask the questions, we're not going to find out. This is Spaced Out Radio. We'll be right back. All right. Just had to time things out there.
Sure.
Good start, my friend. That was fast.
Kind of discursive. So sorry, I'm in a, I'm not giving quick canned answers.
I think you're doing perfect. I think
Okay.
if I need to, I'll interrupt you.
Yeah,
But,
please do. No, you should
know.
put me in the hot seat. Somebody's like, "Hey, hard to put a lawyer." I see the chat going on, and yeah, put me in the hot seat because either I'm pretty direct about things. So
I love it. I think you're doing well.
yeah, I mean, yeah. Another thing is like Congress. What I mean, they're the mess, absolute mess. So you can ask me about that later.
Mm-hmm. Country Carpenter, how are you? Nice to see you.
Oh,
Looking forward to Lou's new book.
are you asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I always look forward to, it's funny. I mean, I haven't seen his movie, but, or the movie that he was in, but, yeah, I'm looking forward to it all. On the other hand, I mean, I'm so busy. It's just, how much time do I have? I mean, I don't have, listen, I have books and books and books and books that I need to read, legal articles. Like I really don't have the mental bandwidth to actually do much nowadays. Like, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted most of the time.
Know that feeling. I work 2 full-time jobs, man. And I've done it for, well over 10 years now, and 5 days a week. And it's brutal sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I can't, I bring it upon myself. I probably take too much work or agree to help too many people. And, I mean, if I told people, if people knew the reality of the kind of people that I've helped and some of the stuff I do, like pro bono, it's very sad actually. And it's hard, so try to help people out. And then sometimes, I'm helping two bad people, but I got to help one more than the other who's a little bit better. And, it's a tough thing.
Everybody in the chat room is so curious about why you titled yourself Reptilian Lawyer.
Just for fun, guys, just for fun.
Yeah. Ivan's a reptilian from the planet Mao or whatever. I don't know. Making stuff up.
Got a forked tongue like a lizard, like a lawyer.
Well, I can say I've seen you in a suit. You look good in a suit.
Thanks. I clean up okay, but most of the time, if you saw me, I mean, I swear people would think I was a hobo or just just look terrible. So, but I don't really. When I go to court, and there's a certain thing you have to look in, and so on. So
yes, I hear you, my man.
That's why the judges are in robes. I mean, standing above you, it's this show, but it's kind of important. It helps people take it seriously. So, yeah.
So for those of you scoring at home tonight, outside SOR headquarters, it's 0 Celsius, 32 degrees Fahrenheit. It is officially t-shirt weather. We tend to have a conversation about temperature at this time of year.
Yeah. Well, what is this to the left of the studio, to the right? Is that I don't understand.
It's kind of like your reptilian lawyer thing.
Okay.
I have fun with the audience, that they're signing autographs after the show. Why not?
Judges never have casual days, guys. Somebody asked a question. They like, do good judges wear, and no, I don't wear a curly white wig. There's only one lawyer I know who seems to have a curly white wig.
They still do that?
No, nobody does. I mean, maybe in England. I'm sure they do in England, but no, not in America. No, pajamas. Okay. Well, good. Yeah, I'm kidding. The chat is fun.
We have about 45 seconds here.
Oh, by the way, you got to get Whistling Mike. I think he's in your audience, but
Yeah.
he's a real interesting person and a real good person. Also,
Yeah,
Gene
we
Sicko, if
gotta
you can
talk.
get him on.
Yeah, he wants to come on. We just got to figure out a time here.
Gene Sicko is another guy. He's very smart, good person.
25 seconds to go. Thank you to Deborah Rooney and Area 54 for the super chats tonight. Greatly appreciate your love and support. T-Bone, thank you for gifting a YouTube membership. Reminder to all of you that you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So head on over to our website and check it on out. We're going to get going in 3 seconds. We are into the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. We have lawyer Ivan Hannel here tonight talking about UFOs, disclosure, and next up, Congress. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, our archives are always free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go with lawyer Ivan Hannel. He is a representative of many in the UFO community trying to figure out what is going on with this secret topic of UFOs. We appreciate Ivan taking the time to be with us tonight. Thank you for being here, Ivan.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
Right before the break, I was asking you what you liked and disliked about this subject. One of the dislikes that you mentioned during the break was Congress. You're not a fan. What's going on?
Oh, gosh. That's a tough one. You know, boy, it's they, ufology made a terrible bet. And what it made a bet on is, frankly, unfortunately, and again, probably politically now I'd be considered center right. But in fact, I probably was for a long time. I was a long time a registered Democrat, through Obama, I'd say. And then, things got a little weird. But yeah, so you now have, and now I'm probably center right, just, so I was sort of more towards the left and then I went to the right, but, I'm more of a centrist. But ufology made a terrible bet on these right-wing MAGA Republicans. And I think that's where things went wrong. And it went wrong because, and I'm not going to represent Lou's position, his political position, for example. He's, I think, I don't know, I wouldn't want to say where he is because I don't frankly know very well, but I think he's, leans a little more towards the Republicans, but I think he has a very centrist sort of approach to things is my sense of things. Not that we've discussed any of the, issues that I have comment on. We really don't talk about politics in that way, but I think that ufology made a bet, a very strange one, honestly, given the actors involved, to align itself with MAGA and MAGA politicians. And that was a huge mistake because they're absolutely crazy. and people don't realize, they're really not okay. And, but you want to believe it, the MAGA people want to believe that it's all great, but it's not. It was a terrible bet. And there was no strategy behind it. It was leaning towards frankly, the inclinations or intuitions of some who were in the surrounding audience, let's say. And I think they made a bad bet. And, they're not serious politicians. They're not particularly intelligent. I'm not saying they're dumb, but they're not the brightest bulbs. And they don't have any, one of the problems with MAGA is it has no institutional, it doesn't stand, they don't see themselves as members of an institution. They see themselves as members of a political party and the more extreme part of a political party. So they're kind of kooky. So because they don't value the institution itself, they don't know how to use the institution to accomplish anything that they want to do. So they're literally that dumb. I couldn't believe the number of times I was like, what are these people thinking? I'm making ridiculous assertions that they had no power to affect. And they were so disorganized. I mean, levels of disorganization that would be shocking. So all of you, the people in ufology are like, I love Luna, or I love, Burleson or whatever, or all these people, or Burchett. And I actually have a fondness for Burchett. I just like his kind of home style approach, and he's pretty plain spoken. I'm not saying I agree with him politically on many things, and very outspoken against, once I became more familiar with the Epstein stuff, I think they're incorrigible and terrible. But anyway, I think that they're just fundamentally incompetent, and it's not uniform. The Democrats are better, not perfect, that's for sure. But that bet to just go hard right and use those people as the mechanism to get to disclosure, oddly enough, it made no sense. It was insane. And that's been a big problem, frankly, because Congress is not going to accomplish anything. You guys bet on the wrong people. And you're going to find out because not much is going to happen, in my opinion, for many years, because now, when you bet on such a group of lunatics, and again, it doesn't mean that they're bad people. It doesn't mean that they're evil necessarily, although I reserve a special place in hell for Luna for a variety of reasons. But it doesn't mean all of them are bad. They just are mostly incompetent. And to some, I don't want to get into all the details, but I certainly could some of them. But point is that when you bet on something like that, you're going to fail, and they're going to spend 2026 being, taken down by Epstein, their incoherent foreign and domestic policy, this latest shooting with this poor woman who was, clearly just trying to get the hell away, and that officer was just, right. So they're going to get destroyed politically. In 2026, midterms are going to come. Democrats are going to take control. But I can promise you one thing. I mean, if I were a Democrat, the last thing I would do would be bringing ufology to the forefront of the issues, because, it's such a strange and speculative thing, and it requires but we have a lot to do outside of ufology. So right. The Democrats, if they're smart, will focus on good governance, attending to the middle class and so on. And they'll spend 2026 to 2028 opposing Trump. He's not going to get any better. That guy is, absolutely out of crazy. And so he's gonna continue to engage himself in tremendous controversy. Their coalition has fallen apart in less than a year in an amazing way. So when you look at the near future, you're going to see, things shift politically to the Democrats. They're going to be the sort of roadblock to what the Republicans want to do from 2026 to 2028. I think they're going to win in 2028. I think probably Newsom will be the president at that point for maybe 8 years. Not very pleased about that either, because I think he's also another floppy nitwit. But sorry, but
he's got good hair.
Despite that. But despite that, I think he'll win. I give zero chance to JD Vance. And then the Democrats, again, if they're intelligent about things, will be focused on returning America, rebuilding our institutions, because we have a lot of rebuilding to do, and we have a lot of challenges to face. And so when you see what's likely to happen politically outside of, if there was, some alien landing on the White House lawn or whatever, or some, I swear you could have the next greatest whistleblower who's 10 times all the other whistleblowers, and it's not going to make a difference. I think that, ufology, if it wants to progress, needs to go back into science and take more modest steps and do the things it should have done all along, which is actually to have a much broader coalition in Congress to provide basic information. I mean, I'll give you one example just so you understand. I met with, a number of members of Congress. And I mean, some of the Congress people may have a general interest, but they rely on staffers to give them to do the homework, because, you're not an expert in everything. Right. So, but the staffers know nothing about ufology. Now, why do the staffers know nothing about ufology? Well, one, I mean, it's like anything else. They just don't know a lot. Two, they've never been informed, and it's very, frankly, the people who lobbied the Congress in the past were very transactional and very, just in it for themselves. So they didn't treat the staffers with great regard. So you have uninformed staffers, you have a sort of transactional approach to Congress, which is just, very, just not right. Yeah. And so you're not going to convince a lot of people. And, and then of course, Burleson and Luna aren't going to convince anybody, frankly, or Burchett, unfortunately, but they're not going to convince anybody really on the other side. They don't have the gravitas, the power, the intellect. They're not, tremendous personalities or have the ability to just charm you, although some of them have some charm. I admit that. But so it was terrible bet, politically a disaster. Very poorly planned, tremendous headwinds up ahead for ufology because, the country really needs to refocus on many things, and UFOs is just not going to be one of them unless something really weird happens where it becomes a source of concern or tremendous interest, or, if the aliens land, then we'll obviously have a different situation. And I maintain the right to change my mind on this if something spectacular happens, but I just don't see it happening. So I think the field has had a big setback, and it's because of, frankly, the leadership that has chosen a really mediocre approach.
If I look at it from an outsider's perspective here, being Canadian, which means I don't have any skin in the game, okay, outside of being...
Not until you become our 51st state because of the crazy man, but go ahead.
Or you become our 11th province.
That'd be fine. I'm okay.
Yeah. Well, the idea that I'm thinking of here regarding this subject is, these congressional hearings that we have heard, I don't think they brought on the right guests. I'm saying from a journalistic and a social perspective, and listening to my audience, I don't think they brought on the right guests to speak. I think that, there hasn't been as much transparency as everybody wants to be able to see. Too much SCIF talk. I mean, if we're trying to get this topic out into the public, don't we have to start bringing the news and the words to the public rather than just talking about 3 videos in 2017?
Well, I mean, here's a challenge for you. Why don't you do this? And why don't everybody write this down in their own way? Why don't you tell me what the strategy Congress has had over, let's just say, the last year, because it would be unfair to hold this Congress to account for the previous one. I think this is what is this, 119th? I don't know, but why don't you and just express to me now, or to your audience, what Congress's strategy? You just criticized it, right? But or critiqued it, that it wasn't, didn't bring the right people and so on. But tell me what the plan had been over the last year or even 3 years. What has been the plan? Could you articulate what the strategy was?
Well, I think that's the problem. That's the problem with many in the public, even people like myself who are viewing this. We don't know what the strategy is. They come in.
Wait, it's not just you. Wait, that's my point. So actually try to do it. Just give me any sense of what you would say if you were to go back and reconstruct what Luna and the House Oversight Committee has been trying to do over the last year, or even 3 years, if you want to reach further back. What has been their strategy? What has been, if you were to say, well, as a lawyer, the way I think about it, and I'm not going to get into great detail, but I have very complicated cases that actually depend upon the outcomes in other cases. So I'm literally triangulating between a case in, Michigan and a case in California to lead into a case in Arizona. And, there's like a very, like 18 different things that need to happen just right so that I can do what I need to do in 4 months. Okay. And basically I just knock them all out one at a time, overcome this legal issue, overcome this factual issue, port this here, get the, it's like a whole integrated thing. Okay. What's Congress in the last year? What was Congress's plan? Or if you can't even describe the past, which should be easy to do because it's the past, what is their plan for the future? Why have they chosen the witnesses they have? What was the intention of the hearings? What was the point? Why? How did they develop their questions? I mean, I could get into it a little more, but I mean, the problem I'm going to tell you is that I don't think you or anybody knows what the plan was, because guess what? They didn't have a plan. And the reason why is because you like the way Luna looks. That's it. That's it. Everybody just thought here, these people don't have any plans. They don't even know who they're getting on half the time. So you're dealing with incredible levels of sheer incompetency because, again, you've elected people that don't believe in the institutions they serve. So, of course, you're going to get chaos. And that's exactly what you got. Meanwhile, you have a community that's very emotional and, they're very hot-headed, and they're always, they're upset about the dumbest things ever, from like, oh, you're, charging a book, or I'm being harassed, or somebody killed somebody, or there's, I just don't believe in any of it. I just think it's so silly. So unfortunately, you have a serious topic about, is there something going on in the skies or seas or space or whatever that is either surveilling us or blipping in and out of existence, or, or whatever the problem is. I mean, it's a problem either way. Even if there's nothing, there's a problem because we believe there's something. I mean, there's a problem of some kind that we need to resolve. But is there any premeditation or planning or thinking or strategy that is articulated and communicated to the public? Because you have a duty as a political leadership to communicate what it is you intend to do. It's like they got into the position and they don't even know what they're doing. They don't even know how to it's one thing not even to have, I don't know which is worse, not to have a plan or not to even feel compelled to articulate it. But I think they don't feel compelled to articulate it because they don't know what they're doing except visiting mummies in Mexico. They're just a bunch of goofballs. I'm sorry. I hate to bear it be so blunt, but what you guys don't know is how incredibly incompetent they are. And you elected them, you chose them, you invested in these Trump people. Again, I'm center right, so it's not like I'm saying I'm opposed to all of Trump's policies, although I have plenty of problems with them now. But it was just a terrible bet, and now you're going to pay the price.
Well, here's my thing, and I want to curb the conversation, because we only have about 7 minutes left before we have to go to break at the top of the hour. In regards to the congressional hearings, then, why are we putting so much stock into it? Why do we see Jeremy Corbell running around in the back trying to set up all of these meetings and information with videos, and talking to Burleson, talking to Burchett and others who are in there? Like, who's really running this? Is that how they are getting their information, is from UFO people rather than government people who are supposed to be in the know?
Yes. Although this is not about Jeremy, because I actually like him. I think he's fun and he has a great show, and, he's good, all that. And he has every right as an American citizen or as a person, to engage Congress as he wishes. It's not like he should be circumscribed in some way, right? He's a human being. He's a citizen. He has the right to talk to whoever he wants to and advocate for what he cares about. So on that respect, and he's talented, and, him and George are great. And, so I give them all the credit for trying to bring things, but I mean, is it fair? First of all, is it even fair to put it on them? They're trying. I mean, I'm not saying they're doing the best job, but I mean, how could I critique George Knapp for what he's tried to do over 30, 40 years? And, and I admire their friendship. So I'm going to say positive things in that respect, because I believe it. Good people trying their best, wanting, and sure, yes, they have a show and weaponized, and, they're, so there's that, but it's not their fault in that respect. They're just trying to do their best to synthesize their business and the topic they love. It'd be like critiquing you and your show, and if you had some contact with a congressperson, it wouldn't be fair. But the problem is that Congress itself is so chaotic that they don't know. I mean, they don't have any idea how to approach this. And again, it's because you have people who don't believe in government. They think, and they're extraordinarily partisan. So they don't know, they're not going to get help from anybody else. It's not like they're going to walk across and unify on a topic. So yeah, they're just, it's not going to happen that way. So I think that what's going on with the hearings, I mean, what was the point of the hearings? Like, Was it to develop legislative facts for legislation? Didn't seem to be that to me. Did they seem like they had questions which they had coordinated amongst each other? Because, they have only 5 minutes during a lot of these hearings to ask questions, and then you got to pass the baton. But they didn't seem to be organized in such a way as to develop any public facts on which to base legislation. Remember, the point of Congress is to either, is to gather facts for legislating. And they didn't do that at the hearings. There were what were the facts that they elicited? What were the questions? Who came up with the questions? I mean, they need better lawyers or more lawyers. And none of the Republicans are lawyers. The only 4 lawyers on the House Oversight Committee are Democrats. So, and I'm not saying they asked necessarily much better questions, but Luna's the head of the thing, couldn't organize a good hearing to frankly save her life, in my opinion. Although I do give credit to the fact that, I personally like the last witnesses of Dylan and Jeff and, some of the other. So I'm not critiquing all that. And you could be charitable and say, we're lucky we got any witnesses at all, and that they spent the time to do hearings. So I can see it in a lot of different ways, but overall, they didn't make productive use of the time. They didn't have much of a strategy. There was a lot of chaos. Things were last minute. The SCIF stuff is just a bunch of nonsense. I mean, it's so dumb. I don't even know where to begin with the SCIF stuff, because it's so disappointing, frankly, and so amateurish. I've seen better planning at like city council meetings at the, Department of Zoning. So they don't know what they're doing. They're not creatures of Congress. I don't think they studied Congress in like college. They didn't go to law schools. They don't know anything about that. They're just like, if you took a guy who was like an owner of a used car lot and put him in charge of like figuring stuff out, that's not going to work. I mean, and nothing against, that life or business, but you need people who actually think about things and have first principles, right? Like, do they have even what are their first principles? Except, vague notions of Christianity, which they don't really embody. I just find them almost repulsive and very weak. So obviously you're not going to get a particularly pleasant view from me, but I don't know this, I don't know anybody, anything. I'm independent and I'm going to have my independent view. And so bad people, because they don't believe in the institutions. They're not very learned. They don't study much. They're just floating around, making statements, saying, mean things. I mean, look, even how dumb is it to me? I'll just give you one example. And I'm sorry, I don't know if I should, launch into things, but the idea of subpoenaing people is just laughable, because most of the witnesses so far have been volunteer. I mean, they've been entirely volunteers. What's the idea of threatening people with subpoenas if they showed up voluntarily? Like, do you not know what a subpoena is for? We're just talking about orders of magnitude of incompetence and lack of institutional knowledge, lack of information, and frankly, not the mental acuity needed to proceed in any reasonable way. You're just, I'm sorry, guys. It's just like, it's just the truth of it. You got the bad leadership. You got to get rid of them.
You said something that as we got about a minute and a half here, you said something very interesting that caught my attention, and that was the witnesses. A lot of people use the term whistleblower. Now, personally, I'm not a big fan of the whistleblower term. Okay.
Yeah, they're just witnesses.
They're witnesses. They're eyewitnesses.
Well, I mean, of something. They may have read reports that, look how bad the questions were. I mean, they couldn't even ask, they never even asked, upon what information do you base what you've said here today? And then they always defer to, well, I can't tell you that, or I'd have to kill you, or see you in this, just some nonsense. But they never pushed. They never said, why can't you say what you say? How do you know that? How do you know why? How do you know? I mean, nobody even asked, to the extent you've said something, how do you know that you're even allowed to say it? Clearly somebody's setting boundaries for you. How do you know what the boundaries are? Why are you allowed to tell us about UFOs, but you're not allowed to tell us about, the name of the code word? Like, nobody asked any good questions. It was very rare, and they were never followed up, and so on. So, you're just going to get, these people just, they need, I hate to say it, to go back to it, but get some decent lawyers on this thing, and you will get some results, because you need people who are dogged and willing to ask questions and make people uncomfortable, and not just saying crap on, online and random flipping comments. That's
Right.
not going to get you anywhere. Yeah.
But on that note, as we're about to go to break here, you also need witnesses who are willing to answer questions rather than hide behind a SCIF.
It's not about the SCIF. The SCIF has nothing to do with it. That's
not. Ivan Hannel is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We're an hour down. We got him for another 60 minutes. We will get more into ufology after this. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, there we go. We are on break. Ivan, I'm going to put you back in the green room. We're going to we got about 5.5 minutes. Okay.
Okay. So just chill out for a minute.
Yeah. Chill out.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Be right back. I am back. Bobbert, how you doing? There's Ivan.
Yeah. Is there a specific question you want to ask me about Congress, or is there anything in particular? Like, what is it? Let me know what you want to know. Because like, if you're pretty general,
we're just running with the conversation, man.
Right.
So far, so good.
Yep. If your audience has a question, I'm happy to take them from them too. It's up to you.
Yeah, not a problem. We got 1 minute to go here.
Good thing. No worries.
Hi, Elsa Louise. Welcome to SOR Chat. Skip to Malou. Good morning to you in Denmark. Thank you tonight to Deborah Rooney and Area 54 for our super chats tonight. Greatly appreciate it. If you have questions, please put them in capital letters for our guest. I will read them to him and shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. Find it at spacedoutradio.com/shop. We'd greatly appreciate it. And we're back in 10 seconds. Here we go. We are into hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Our guest tonight, Ivan Hannel, lawyer to Lou Elizondo and others in the UFO world. So thank you very much for tuning us in. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Idolism. Idolism is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head back to our guest. Lawyer Ivan Hannel is here. He's working behind the scenes of the UFO world, trying to help move the subject forward. Is it working? Is it not? Well, that is something that we're going to find out. Ivan, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thanks very much.
The disclosure movement is something of, you know, one foot tripping over the other in my determination of it. You have a very impassioned community, no matter what side you're on, whether you're on the UAP side, you're on the UFO side, you're on the government side, or whether you're on the experience or a curious side. Disclosure, is it even possible from what you're seeing behind the scenes?
I mean, anything's possible, but I mean, the answer would be no, mostly. If there's something going on that, I mean, I just don't think it is possible because, again, the incompetence, that's it, and the whole lack of a theory of mind or sort of an approach based on first principles. They don't have value. So if you don't have value, this is just a random issue to them that's used for attention seeking and maybe their personal curiosity because, they like Star Trek. But, or something like that, but they don't take it seriously. They don't know what they're doing. Not that I would, I'm a genius at this. I'm pretty ignorant of many things in terms of the history, although I know some, but, but the reality is, I don't think we're going to get to this thing called disclosure. I mean, even the narrative framing, I mean, what fools, framed it, what fool, frankly, created this whole idea of catastrophic disclosure. I mean, I know the fool, but the point is like, what a ridiculous way of compelling disclosure at all by creating a narrative that if you don't do something, there's going to be some catastrophe. It's in the word. I'm sorry. I mean, even whether catastrophic disclosure simply means a surprise event. The implication is that it's bad, right? That there's harm come to people. So unfortunately, the dumbest nitwit of them all, who by the way is not very persuasive in person, but anyway, and I can't even get into that, but they created this crazy idea of disclosure or of a catastrophe that is potential from simply learning about science and reality or what might be there. Just, even if nothing's there, at least finding out that in fact it was birds or whatever. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is that even the framing was based on sheer political incompetence. Yet that was the reason to do, the UAPDA and reasonable alternative, which was written in secret. I had people scream at me saying, this is the most important legislation in the world. And then I'd ask them, okay, who wrote it? And they'd be like, I don't know. I'm like, does that matter? And they'd be like, no. I'm like, well, would it matter to you if you were, proposed, if you found out some civil rights legislation was being proposed by the Daughters of the Confederacy, and they were, they were like, well, look, they don't know what they're doing. And so they created this ridiculous notion and saying we need to have controlled disclosure versus catastrophic. This is the paranoid mindset. And this is what you get when you get right-wing, loony Republican MAGA types driving this whole project. Well, and that's what happened to you guys. That's actually what happened. You don't understand.
From an outsider's perspective, I could see that where you are, okay? But from what I see, isn't it more about the military-industrial complex about this? Because they seem to be deflecting what is truly going on. I mean, we could sit here and say that it's political, but on the flip side, a lot of the blockages have been from the Pentagon, the alphabet agencies, the military itself. Who controls them? Well, it's the military-industrial complex.
I would have to tell you to prove it, because although there is, I think that's an assumption you're making, and you're assuming that that there's this cabal of geniuses out there who are somehow preventing disclosure, and everything is a double trick and everything is a trap door and they're controlling everything. And that is the same mindset. Again, you're falling into the trap. And I'm not saying you in particular, but I'm saying this view that there's a cabal of people involving Lockheed Martin and, the CIA and, some shadowy group of people who wear black and, all of that. Man, that is not what I see happening. I see just sheer, I'm not saying it's not possible that, that there aren't technologies that are very sophisticated, and the origins of those tech, I have no idea. But the idea though, that they're roadblocking everything in a very sophisticated and coordinated way, in a way, I'm kind of like, I hope so. At least somebody is in charge here, because this is like a state fair run by insane people. So I wish there were a cabal of evil people. I wish there was a cabal of evil people ready to take me out the moment I give the secret sauce. But I don't see any of that. And I'm sorry, it's not just well, you're ignorant, you don't get to see it. I just don't see that. I have not seen evidence of that. Instead, what I see is, and there may be opposition to various things. For example, Senator Mike Rounds, and I'll give you an illustrative moment. It was, I think it was in the November, I don't know, something in November, was after the hearing or whenever it was, the one I went to with Lou. I found him alone for a second. Went up to him and I said, so what's going on with this UFO stuff? I'm very direct. I'm not going to do what these lunatics do, where they're like, oh, Senator Rounds, I'm so pleased to meet you and all that. I mean, I'm not pleased to meet him. He was a decent human being, but there's such strange way. I've dealt with more very important people. I treat you normal, So I went up to him and I said, hey man, what's going on with this UFO stuff? What's the real deal? Why are you interested in this? Like, why? What's the deal? And he said very directly, I'm interested in protecting our blue sky technologies. I was like, what's a blue? I didn't even know what's blue sky technology. I mean, obviously the blue sky is the closest to space and the farthest reaching technology. And so that was his interest. And guess what? When people tell you what they're interested in, you should probably listen. and not simply, he said, people didn't listen to Hitler and he was like real interested in killing Jews. And like, no. For a decade, they were like, I don't know. This guy, I don't know what he's interested in. I'm telling you what he's interested in. He's interested in killing Jews and taking over the world, just like Donald Trump thinks he's going to be president forever. And he's a crazy man. So we don't listen to people. But if you listen to what Mike Brown said, at least to me in that one moment, he was very clear what his priority was, which was keeping technology safe. Now, where that technology originates, I don't know. What that technology is, I don't know. And I understand his mindset. And, I'm curious then, I'd have a million follow-up questions. It's like, well, how do you balance the need to preserve, technical superiority in the military domain with the need for humanity to resolve issues of energy and climate change and just the tremendous effort, the poverty in the world. Like, where's this balance? And is there an asymmetric problem with this technology that might, lead to, if we can blip in and out of existence, I don't want Hamas to be blipping in and out of existence and killing me, So, or Putin, having that power would be insane. So maybe there's an asymmetry there or some concern. But anyway, the point is that, there are smart people and they tell you things, and it's possible there's this cabal, but I don't know. I haven't seen evidence of it. What I see is a lot of confusion, a lot of strange narratives, a lot of strange statements without much substantiation. And so this idea, that this is all about Lockheed Martin, evil group of people descending out of helicopters and terrifying you and putting notes on your door, in your car and nonsense. It's like, I'm sorry, guys. It's just not what I've seen. Instead, I've just seen sheer incompetence around an idea that's important to resolve, but with people who do not have the organizational skills. I mean, look, let's just be honest. If you were to grab the sort of the glitter, I call them the glitterati, the special people that ufology loves. If you were to gather those people together and say, would you make them the head of an organization, even a small $100 million a year corporation, doing some business, I would say you would be absolutely insane to do that, because they don't have the skill to manage and run a real profitable, organized, directed organization. In roles, they might have a fit, but as far as like doing that whole thing, no way. So, you need a different kind of group of people to move things forward, or you need to have a different organizational structure. And because ufology is filled with a bunch of just lunatics, you're just not getting that. So, yeah, I don't think there's this cabal that you're talking about. I mean, not that I've seen. Rather, the reason disclosure has failed so far is because, and again, you got to give credit for people for, like, for example, Lou. I give him a tremendous credit for, he's back in 2017, 16, he's, pretty far into a career, with the government, and decides to take this crazy risk, frankly, to come out and say the wildest stuff ever about UFOs, for really, and people say, oh, it was foreordained that he would do a book and a movie and this and that. No, it wasn't. The guy was just a upper level guy in a small smallish government program, let's say, or at least his thing, putting it all on the line to try to change the system. I mean, it's almost like Cervantes, Don Quixote, Cervantes. It's like tilting at windmills. It's almost an impossible task. And yet, and then they blame, whether it's Dave Grush or him or, all these people, Colonel or Jay Stratton, all these people. And they're like, oh, they didn't accomplish disclosure. It's like, did you think they ever would? Like, is this, when does anybody just come out of government? Like I put it on X the other day. I'm like, does somebody come out of the Department of whatever, natural resources or forestry, and then all of a sudden changes everything about, forests because they went to a few members of the weirdest part of Congress and changed things? That's not the way it actually works. And people who think it works that way have lost their minds. It's almost like they're too dumb to know that this is never going to work that way. You need a plan, and Congress doesn't even have a plan. And then, this ufology community is so crazy, so mentally ill that they traffic in people who are just filled with delusional ideas and conspiracies. And I know it's the stuff of entertainment, and some of it is true. Occasionally there's a real conspiracy, but it's just a terribly bad plan. So sorry, don't buy this whole there's a cabal of Lockheed Martin executives controlling the world. Rather, the reason disclosure is not succeeded.
Why have so many people then, including your client Lou Elizondo, come out and said, that Lockheed Martin and all these other groups are fronts for this entire situation? That contradicts exactly what you were saying.
Well, look, to the extent that they may know something specific, they but feel constrained in saying it. I'm sorry, but you can allude to this idea that Lockheed Martin is some terrible organization hiding the deepest secrets and killing people right and left, and men in black are descending out of helicopters. But go ahead and prove it. And if you can't go further than that, then I'm just going to assume that there may be something there, and therefore it's the obligation of Congress to investigate this task. Problematically, people like Lou and others can only offer so much to the conversation, whether due to their belief in prior, legal obligations or ethical obligations. But, it really is I think they've done what they can do. They presented their narrative. They pointed out who they believe has some responsibility for maybe wrongful acts or maybe rightful legal acts, but that, have a moral component, that we should talk about. But they've done what they can do, but they can't carry it farther than that. That is the end of what they can do. And then it becomes incumbent upon people in Congress to do their jobs, because again, going back to it, since they don't know what their jobs are, they don't believe in institutions, and they're not very smart, you're not going to get far with these people. And I'm not trying to be a mean guy about it. I'm just telling you, look, it's like you want to accomplish X, but you got a bad team, and this team can't, it's not, they're not even necessarily bad. They're just who they are. They don't have the competencies to build this out to be a $1 trillion company, so you're like taking people, it's a rare thing to get like a Tesla. I mean, Musk is crazy in his own way, but it is still an incredibly amazing accomplishment, those kinds of endeavors. And you're expecting a group of people who, never really ran a company before, didn't put together a huge organization before to accomplish what would be an astounding result. I just think it's a very significant mismatch between the resources you have and the talent and the objective.
Lou Elizondo has taken a lot of heat over the last couple of years regarding where he stands in ufology. I mean, there was a couple of mishaps with photographs, one being the chandelier, the other one being an irrigation system in the farm that seemed to tarnish a reputation. How do you take that and help rebuild a reputation for somebody like Lou Elizondo, who's trying to be, one of the forefront messengers of this subject?
Well, first of all, I'm not a media consultant to him in that respect. And, I don't know much about the photo stuff. I will say on the second photo, which is the one I'm familiar with, again, I was present in the audience. And what I got out of it, which was different from, most people, unfortunately, is that he was just presenting it as an exemplar of something a pilot took. And he wasn't actually, saying this is a UFO. I mean, everything looks like a UFO that looks like a circle and whatever. And, they all kind of look the same, honestly. It's not like, oh, well, I've seen a UFO and it doesn't look like that because it looks, it has fins on it and blue lights, not green. Like, how would you know? So he's just saying, he was just using that as an example of something that, that we need a better civilian reporting system. But forgetting the specifics of that, look, if ufology is so fragile that somebody who presents two, I guess, photos and two instances that are not UFOs, then okay, well, then there's nothing there, right? I mean, if your worldview is so fragile that it's dependent upon Lou Elizondo or anybody, having a real photo of a UFO, whatever in the hell that means. I mean, even maybe it was Jeff or Dylan. I think it was Dylan in the last hearing. We're like, look, I can't tell you if it's UFO because I don't have a comparator to it, right? I don't know how to verify something. All I know is something I've seen is very strange. Anyway, if your worldview about UFOs is dependent upon the presentation of 2 photos as being like so impactful, then guess what? This whole thing is for nothing. It's too fragile. It will never work. You will never invest. You have no reason to further invest because the project itself is gossamer thin. It is cellophane. It is not worth doing. So look, I don't believe that, the photo stuff, the video stuff, I don't know what the good evidence will be that will establish, that there are these objects, visiting us. But to the extent, and so that's something to think about. I don't know how we go about proving this, but I'm not here to rebuild or to build Lou's persona or his public image. That has nothing to do with me. I also don't think, I think that if you think everything is riding on whether Lou presents an accurate photo of what is an unknown UFO, then just go home and stop being a baby. I mean, this is ridiculous. I think, you should be asking bigger questions. I mean, here's one question. If you're thinking politically and astutely, does it make sense for Representative Burleson to go see a bunch of mummies in Mexico? Okay. Mummies, which have like the provenance of which are God knows what. I don't know what they are. And I know ufology loves its mummies, and I'm not against the people who have a curiosity about it, but politically, I mean, who's going to take Representative Burleson seriously in Congress? I mean, it's like you're off on the mummy trip. I mean, I'm saying, these, and I'm not saying he's not a nice person and that maybe somebody would find him, find it interesting. And maybe there's other congressmen who are like, oh, tell me more about the mummies. It would be a fun topic. But in general, if you look at the whole institution, how politically astute was that to identify one of the few representatives who's trying to, tell everybody in Congress, hey, you need to take this seriously, is off visiting the mummies. I mean, it just is politically not astute, yet he chose to do it. Now, I mean, that's fine. He has the right to, he's a citizen, and I respect his curiosity, and all of that stuff is fun and fascinating. But as far as being like politically astute, how do you what do you think one of the senators is going to be like? Oh yeah, do you want to meet Representative Burleson? He's out visiting the mummies in Mexico. You want to talk to him about it and talk about legislation for UFOs? I mean, the Congress, the senators are going to, at least some of them, or at least other representatives are going to be like, I think I'm going to be busy that week and maybe for the next couple of years. They're not going to do that. So I just think that like you're blaming the wrong people. Everybody thinks Lou's to blame or Grush is the hero or somebody's the this or somebody's that. You guys you're barking up the wrong tree. You need to have a strategy about how to approach this that starts with first principles. What is disclosure? Define it. It's not catastrophic. It's not controlled. What is it? How do we know when we got there? What are the steps we need to get there? Who do we need to influence? How do we do that? There's not even a national poll or that with local, very granular results by which to convince congressmen that even if you don't care about UFOs and even if I can't put money in your pocket, some of your constituents care about UFOs. And here's why you should pay attention. We don't have anything like that, despite all the 501c3s and 4s looking for donations. So look, this is just a really, it's not going to work. And I think you got a period of wandering in the desert to do, and then return to this when more attention. And I think one way to get, to move on things is to go into the drone area. Resolving the drone issue might be the one thing that everybody is kind of like agreeing is a big deal. And if we had just jumped on that bandwagon and said, look, I don't know if these are UFOs or what these drones are, but we really need to figure this out. But there was no stick-to-itiveness, so yeah, it's a mess.
We have about 45 seconds before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. How do you clean up that mess that is ufology? Never mind the political side of everything, but that mess that's ufology, because there's a lot of segregated, let's call them UFO cells that are out there that are really pushing different narratives, different exploiting people. Social media has become like X has become a cesspool on this. I don't even know I don't even know where to even start with that. How do you deal with that when everything's coming at you?
You want to take it on the next break, or you want me to go for it now?
Well, let me see here. We got 25 seconds, so we might have to take it on the next break.
Makes sense.
It
Yeah.
would just make sense.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, I mean, give me a second to think about it, and I can. The answer probably won't be what people like, but yeah, I'll give you my point of view.
We can do that. Ivan Hannel is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We have until the top of the hour, and we continue after this.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we are clear. There we go. There we go. If anybody has any extra carrot cake, can you please send me a slice? I'd appreciate that. Teeth are killing me right now. I had a filling replaced the other day.
Yeah, I've unfortunately had some dental work too. It's it's never fun.
Oh, I know. Now I'm in the sore achy part after a
couple ibuprofen will help. Take some before you get dental work, take a 3 or 4 ibuprofen, and it makes it a much more pleasant experience. I don't know if you do that, but before you walk into the dentist, about 30 minutes before, take 3 or 4 ibuprofen, and it'll help you out.
Yeah.
People don't do it, but it
definitely did not do it that time.
Well, yeah.
Definitely didn't do it that time. I really appreciate you doing this for us tonight.
Oh, no worries. No worries. Happy to give a point of view. It's a different point of view. They don't want to hear, a lot of people don't want to hear it. So, and I understand they want to, believe that there's going to be a disclosure and there's going to be a hero and everybody's going to follow in and suddenly the aliens are here. But
never know when them aliens are going to show up, my friend. You never know.
I welcome them. If they want to, they want to show up. I'm happy to show them around. To me, they seem like peeping Toms, but fine. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. So sure.
We got about 3 minutes.
Oh, we got 3 minutes. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, look, just as far as it goes, since we have a second, to your question about the communities, it's like the reality is they need to, people need to take a stand about what's acceptable, and they just don't. And I can give you many, many examples, but people tolerate a bunch of nonsense, insanity, complete insanity. And you think that this is going to work with the rest of Congress? Absolutely not. Zero chance. But Burleson is out there, for example, on these, talking to whatever the guy's name, Chupacabra or something like that, not realizing that Chupacabra is a guy who used very negative, very terrible words. I mean, they're words. I'm not afraid of them, but he said terrible things, and Burleson's out cavorting with these people. I mean, this is who you have representing you in ufology. And Burleson's not a bad guy, but that is not what you need to get stuff done. And they don't understand it. They just will never get it. So we're, bad. You guys bet on some really bad horses.
Okay. Well, you know what? I've the first and only time I've ever spoken to Chupacabra was probably about 5 years ago. I think it was 4 or 5 years ago.
Sure.
And I haven't really talked to him since then, or I try and stay away from that side of everything. Right. So I just, my job as a journalist to try and stay neutral.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
I still
it's not like you have to take a position.
believe in the old school journalism way of trying to stay neutral on things.
Listen, I'm not saying anybody has to take a side. They can do whatever they want. But if you're going to and maybe nowadays in sort of an anything goes world where we have a president who's tried and found liable of civil rape, sure, why not? Why not have people who've made incredibly racist and sexist remarks join with a representative? That sounds great. We can do that. But that's not something I think is going to work. People making crazy allegations like some woman was killed who's mentally ill. I mean, the factions and ufology on social media, because there's no discipline, no morality there really. I just think you're not going to go anywhere. I had a guy, I'll mention it when we get back on air. I had a guy who I said, hey, look, somebody presented you with a direct quote of what this guy said, and you didn't even have the courage to say, this is wrong. This is wrong. If you don't have the courage to say that saying those words with the intent to saying the N word.
We're coming back in like 5 seconds.
All right.
Here we go. Here we go with the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Ivan Hannel, lawyer to many UFO people, is here. We have until the top of the hour, but first we want to remind everyone that if you've missed portions of this show or others, please check our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network, our website, spacedoutradio.com, and follow us on social media, on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. All right, Ivan, we got you back here. Let's get right to it. There is a big social media presence out there that, it seems to be at odds almost on a daily basis with throwing words. The most public recent instance was when a gentleman named Jay Anderson was all over on Joe Rogan, kind of going off on people like your client, Lou Elizondo, and many others. Just your thoughts on the community at large right now and how divided it is on social media.
Like on one hand, it's freedom of speech, and I'm glad for people to express their points of view generally, right? Like even if you have a different point of view, and I don't care. Rogan has every number of, every person. He has a fascination about that, topic. So he's had all sorts of people on. But as far as social media goes, I don't have a resolution for it, but I will say this. It's sort of an insatiable thing, right? Everybody wants to, it's just, they want to talk about it. And so the only way I think they find relevancy is by creating some controversies. But I will say this, to me, the problem with it is a lack of courage. I'm going to give you just a couple examples. Recently, there was a post, and I don't know who it was, and I don't need to go into all the details, but somebody took a post by one of the social media people, which had the N word and calling was homophobic slurs and stuff like that, and they presented it to somebody in a post and said, but what about this, and that so the person who is another podcaster, unfortunately, or fortunately, he's a good podcaster. It's not a bad guy. He's a good person, but when presented with the post, his first reaction to that particular post was to say, I don't want to have anything. I don't want to comment. I got to stay neutral. I stay out of that. Essentially, I don't comment. Wait a minute. If you're presented with a direct quote, that somebody used the N word and called people a homophobic slur and meant it intentionally, it wasn't some act, it wasn't a one-time thing. It wasn't, something you might say, look, this person was just super heated and said the wrong thing, and that's not who they really are. They said it with intent repeatedly. That is who they are, and continue it. And then you don't have the courage to say, wait, that is wrong. Regardless of whether I think that person has value in other ways, that is wrong. That is the problem. That is the problem. And so you get crazy stuff like, people saying, oh, these people killed some crazy woman or whatever. I'm like, are you, you just don't have any courage. And so here's the oddest thing to be presented with: a very liberal person who will not critique somebody who uses the N-word or a homophobic slur, because it would be impolitic at that moment for their podcast. Okay. Now look, I mean, this is one example, and I've had this happen multiple times across ufology, where people have done unethical things, absolutely unethical things that, if I had pressed harder, would have created problems. But I decided to kind of just say, okay, we're gonna, let it go. I've seen a lot of this in ufology, where out of self-interest and vanity and a desire to just get along, they allow the most repulsive things. And for example, Burleson actually attended one of these podcasters' things, and nobody says, "Oh, Burleson, what the hell were you doing? Why would you go on a podcast where a person used those words?" And he's like, "Well, I wouldn't know. I mean, like, that's the guy who's going to take us to anywhere." I'm sorry, but I just find that, and that's a Christian. I mean, look, you guys can think what you want. I don't think that's.
I want to comment on that for a second, because we all get looped into things. Okay, there's nobody really watching, say, a show that has journalistic integrity compared to one that has
right. Absolutely, yeah, I get that. You can't know. Yeah, I get it. You don't know. But the point is that you have an obligation to try to know, and you have an obligation to try to think about it and to become better informed. And I guess, I mean, I'm not going to say in that one instance, but my point is that, he's also made comments which didn't make sense, and then he retracted them and so on. And this is not about Burleson or Luna or these people in particular. I'm just saying, look, please spare me. It's kind of like, please spare me all the UFO hysteria that's generated by social media. I honestly don't care. I mean, I find it insane. I mean, I just laugh at it, but I don't personally take it seriously, because I don't respect it. Right. I don't respect it. Even people who know better are like on the social, attending, like, they're like, oh, I know this person is terrible. But what they won't say is that they're just addicted to the drama. So they participate in these idiotic social media bickering between, people who would otherwise be unemployed. I find it laughable, and I can almost promise you that nothing will transpire. Nothing's going to transpire because of the social media drama. You're not going to carry it through the U.S. Congress to any resolution in that respect. I don't see it. Now, in a world where our American president, Donald Trump, is found liable of civil rape, and everybody's fine having a rapist as the president, then I guess, anything goes. Maybe you guys are right. We are turning into idiocracy.
That's on the opinion of the voter, though. Every voter has an opportunity to vote for who they believe in.
Sure. I mean, I believe, as I recall, the Nazi Party also got elected. I mean, sure.
Justin Trudeau, right? Yeah. I mean, we're still trying to figure that one up here in Canada.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar, unfortunately, with the whole Trudeau stuff. But I will say, look, and again, I'm a center right guy. It's not like I, blazing trails for Gavin Newsom or the Democratic Party. All I'm just saying is, I think your real problem is that, at least in the social media domain, is that people don't put a stop to nonsense. They don't ask, what evidence do you have? They love to engage in the drama and the speculation and these silliness. It's fun. I get it. But you're never going to get to where you need to be. You can't treat this like it's just like some social media drama, like the Jersey, whatever the latest, Real Housewives of whatever. And the more you engage in that, the more, and the people who know better are partisan to it. They enjoy it. They go on these podcasts, they attend, they participate, they trade insults, they get they get very heated about stuff. And this is a prosaic problem of whether something or not is currently engaging humanity. That is a scientific, social science, political task that must be approached with some deliberation and organization. You will not find that in social media. Nothing in social media suggests that any of those people have any competencies in building anything other than an audience that is, looking for drama. So if you have the Megyn Kellys or the, the Candace Owens or these lunatics out there, and then there's also them on the left. I don't, follow it all very much, but when you have social media and chaos, you're going to get the result that you deserve. And the result that you deserve is not disclosure. And frankly, as a matter of morality, I personally, and this is distinct from Lou, he has his own opinion. He's a different person than me. But I would never give disclosure to the ufology audience because I think they're actually crazy. And I'm sorry. And I'm saying stuff that people are not going to like, but I'm not here to be your friend. I'm not yours. I mean, just in general, I'm just going to tell my truth, and, people don't have to like it. I don't care. So for me, I would never give disclosure. I would never allow this technology out personally if I had any influence, which I don't, which is good. But I would never let it out if it was true, because clearly the people are not able to handle it. Not just whatever the reality is, but they literally do, if invested with great power comes great responsibility, right? They are not capable of handling the most minimal responsibility of saying when things are wrong and ridiculous. And so if you can't do that, then why would I want you to be gifted with some sort of power? I mean, I don't want to see, and frankly, I mean, I got to just say it, whether it's Luna, Burleson, or Burchett, or those people, or the MAGA Republicans, I wouldn't give them any power whatsoever. In fact, I'd kick them out on the street if I could, but, that's for the voters to do. But so my point is that until ufology develops a set of sort of first principles of what is tolerated, what is understood, what is believed, until it develops a moral spine and calls out the nonsense and says, no, we're not going to just be addicted to these ridiculous social media spaces where everybody bickers and speculates and all that. And I know it's part and parcel of this whole, thing, but you're not going to get to your aliens or your super tech.
We don't even know if the aliens are here. We don't know what the cover up is. And that has nothing to do with the Republican or Democratic Party. I mean, there's more to it than just, I guess from my show perspective, people who have had experiences want to know what is going on with them, that it's not hallucination. It's not dreams. It's not psychosis or anything along those lines. They want to know what is going on. They believe that there are answers within the Pentagon walls in order to try and figure out what is happening. And who is covering it up? Who knows the story, right?
There may be some of that, but you also have to understand that there's even looking back at 9/11. I mean, you think about it, how insane is it, that we had, what was it, 18 hijackers, 4 planes, box cutter knives, totally create a different reality for us that, ended up invading the wrong country in the Middle East, just chaos, so many dead, so much harm. But where did that come from? You'd say, well, it was a conspiracy, just like the World Trade Centers and all this other stuff. It's like, it wasn't a conspiracy. I mean, it was, there was a conspiracy amongst bin Laden and a bunch of religious lunatics, but it was a random but predictable event. I mean, heck, the World Trade Centers has been targeted by a truck bomb 3 years before. It was a target. You should know, So I guess what I'm saying is it's things sometimes happen that don't make a lot of sense, and you need to have a whole frame in order to deal with those black swan events. And yes, I understand where people in ufology want to get answers, but you have to have a whole comprehensive worldview, a schema, a framework, in order that allows you to handle both outlier events as well as the predictable day-to-day things that lead to information and understanding and knowledge. And so you're not surrounded by people who want to build things up. Most of your podcast people like to destroy things and cause chaos. And you all love it because you love to be agitated and blame somebody else for your life or just, I mean, some people I think are probably like, look, I think I got visited by an alien. I want to know what the heck happened. I'm like, okay, I get it, right? But a large number of the people are just, they like drama, they like chaos, they feel out of control. This is the one area of their life where they're just so set upon something. It's like, this guy's a bad guy. Like, it's almost like the pro wrestling. It's fake, but you're very invested in, like, well, fake in the sense of like, it's a scripted event. It's real wrestling, but it's scripted. But it's like you invest yourself in this drama because it gives some meaning in your life, rather than, okay, how do I really build up my family? How do I build up my business? How do I build up my skills? How do we build up this structure to ascertain what might be happening in the oceans and the space and sea? How do we influence our government to take this seriously by presenting information in a very moderated way, where the representatives do themselves become curious enough and their staffers become well-versed enough to actually begin to look at how to approach things? I promise you, they can't even get people into a SCIF. They don't even know how to do it. I mean, you all worry about the SCIF stuff is nonsense to begin with. It's just a room. It's just a secure room. And there's more detail to that, but they can't even do that. So to imagine that these people are going to resolve fundamental questions of the universe is like imagining three guys with three toothless people who can't even read and write and have no idea of history are going to discover how to make fusion. It's not going to happen. You need a different structure to get to the design to get to the goal you want. And until we do that, and the social media stuff is just, frankly, it's just nonsense. I would use a curse word, but I'm not going to. But it's nonsense. It's not going to work. It doesn't produce anything but chaos. Y'all love it, though. You're going to get more of it, but you're never going to find your UFOs. That's my prediction.
So where are the UFOs hiding? What have you been told?
First of all, I don't ask that question to Lou or anybody. So there's other clients who I have who have information, and I do not ask that question. So I cannot give you, even if I knew the answer, I wouldn't tell you, but I don't know the answer because I never asked. Not only is it a precaution as a lawyer, I don't want to be a source of like, oh, well, you're one of the 5 people who knew this, and could you be now a leak or something like that? So I would never ask the question. If I knew the answer, I wouldn't tell you. Also, as a matter of morality, I wouldn't. I mean, not only just professional ethics, but also I would be, as I said, I express great caution about whether I would express any of this to anybody, even if I knew it, because I don't think you have the moral capacity. And the people who have been in the head of disclosure, I also don't have the moral capability to really engage this. So I don't know where the UFOs are, but if I knew where they are, I wouldn't tell anybody.
So in your opinion, then, is this about aliens and UFOs, or is it about technology and something completely different?
I think there may be UFOs. I mean, I'm persuaded that it is more likely that all of these people, despite their incoherence and competition and silliness, are telling over time a fundamentally true story, that there is something engaging us. What it is, I don't know. Do I think that it's been recovered? I mean, a lot of those stories don't make a lot of sense to me. The story that the aliens happen to be, they land at the one place, there's a nuclear weapon going off because they're just curious, and it rattles them and they collapse and we recover the craft. I mean, that seems absurd to me, but fine. If that's a story people want to believe, cool. I don't know. I don't know where the aliens are, but I'm persuaded that there is something going on, whether it's related to the technology. That's likely, maybe for good reason, right? I mean, again, I said, what happens if there's an asymmetric use that we really, by comparison to like a nuclear program, it takes there's a lot of telltale signs when somebody's building a nuclear weapon. They got to get the uranium, they got to get certain metals, they got to, have centrifuges, which purify things for years actually. And, so there's this whole thing. You have to have a bunch of people who have PhDs and beyond to do the chemistry and the metallurgy and the physics. So it's like and the ballistic and the whole thing. It's a big deal. Okay. And it's a nation state type thing. But what happens if this technology is something that anybody can figure out once you know how to do it? Well, that's a bad deal, because I don't want some of these places, some of these crazy, countries to have that technology. And if that means that we don't get, magic carpets now, let's not do that, because I don't want the, China or Russia or Hamas to be blipping in and out of our existence and causing chaos because they are jihadists and insane or think they're going to control the world. I don't want that. So I think it's a technology thing. Whether it's originated from aliens, I don't know. I think we may have made some advances on our own that suggest, that are new developments in technology that have not been, for good reason, maybe widely announced. At least that is my hope. But either way, regardless of whether it's aliens who, we found a buried craft in Italy and reverse engineered it over 70 years or whatever it is. And then, now we have some tech, or if it was just, the Americans and others figured out some new things about physics. Either way, this technology, if it exists, is extremely powerful, but the people are crazy, right? Like we're crazy now. So it's like handing, to your insane neighbor and who has regular fist fights with his family, like AK-47s. It's like, you're going to have a bad outcome, guys. So I personally am, again, not in favor of, I personally would not be in favor of that result, So I don't know where the aliens are. I don't know where the tech originates from, but I think we have a much more fundamental problem, which is learning how to communicate internally, learning how to prioritize. None of this tech, if it exists, is going to, what's it going to do? I mean, you and I have lived through, we're of a certain age where we didn't have the internet, and I'm grateful for the internet. You wouldn't have this show if you didn't have the internet. Most likely there wouldn't be a YouTube, all of that, right? And on and on and on. But people are very upset. They're worse than they ever were. And I'm not just saying it because I'm getting older. I mean, I really think that people are worse than they ever were due to the lack of, sort of curating of information that actually created a sort of a more thoughtful group of citizenry. Well, now it's really bad. So I actually don't care about the UFOs or the aliens. I know that sounds weird, but I just don't care at all. I hope we don't find them because we're not ready for it. And neither controlled or catastrophic disclosure will profit us. We need to revisit our basic first principles. Who are we? What do we want? What do we owe each other? I don't owe you a flying carpet that goes to Mars. You owe me, we owe each other kindness, deliberation, an approach to reality, that to understanding what is real. And that is more of a philosophy of mind. It's not about, can I get the next $1 billion, $1 trillion company that takes me to Mars so I can put up condos because I hate Earth. I mean, who are you?
On that point, though, as we got 2.5 minutes to go, do we not see that happening with all of these UFO groups popping up left, right, and center? And each one of these groups seems to have many of the same individuals on their board of directors.
Listen, I mean, sure. I don't know what they think. I mean, I don't know why half of these organizations were formed. I think people were just spitballing stuff, trying to see how they might make a living. None of these people are rich. People think, Lou's rich. He's not rich. He's okay. I mean, come on. I mean, you guys don't even know what, sorry. Nobody knows what they're talking about in this respect. I personally think there's a lot of problems with all these like 501s and these corporations that people are trying to form. I think it's regrettable at the very least. I don't like the idea of, I mean, I'm not saying you can't profit from things. There's a reason why we have capitalism, but I just find that unseemly and weird. So I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it.
90 seconds to go. What is happening in 2026 towards ufology specifically? Do you see more hearings coming up? Do you see any more push to disclosure? Because everybody's like, get ready. This is going to be a busy year. Lou said it the other day on X. You pretty much paraphrasing. You haven't seen anything yet.
Look, I don't look. They may come up with a new whistleblower and they may have another hearing and whatever. It doesn't matter. You're not going to get like you're facing a tsunami of chaos due to Trump. And so it's never going to go anywhere. You could have the chief of staff come out and say, I saw a UFO and we have a UFO program. And I promise you within 2 weeks, people would talk about it. They'd be interested. It'd be disputed. And then boom, there'd be something else. And it's not going to go the way you think. You invested in the wrong people. You didn't have a plan. You fought amongst each other. You don't deserve it. So I don't think anything's going to happen. Sure, you might have a hearing. Sure, you may have a new witness. Sure, you may have more controversy. But with this group of people, with the character of the ufology community, plus the character of the present members of Congress, I predict failure. I could be wrong. Maybe the aliens will land and resolve this whole thing for us. Awesome. I'm fine with that. But I don't think the power that is alluded to with this technology or this understanding is currently fit for ufology. So that's what I got to say.
Ivan Hannel, lawyer to Lou Elizondo and many others in the UFO world, thank you very much. Swamp Dweller and Lee Strauss are next on Spaced Out Radio.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Good job.
Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Thank you, Ivan.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Take care. Stay in touch.
Take care. Adios. Take care of yourself.
Bye. All right. Well, love him or hate him, he had an opinion. That's what we do. Everybody's allowed an opinion here, man. Everyone. I'll be right back. And I'm going to bring in extra small.
It is I, El Cryptado.
All right, let's bring in extra small Lee Strauss. There he is. How you doing, buddy?
I'm working on it, man. I'm working on it.
All right. Little Tommy Fessler, it's nice to see you in the chat room. First time in a long time. Excuse me, guys.
Mm-hmm. Skip the Maloo.
All right. We got about a minute 20, Lee. Swamp Dweller will be about 2.5 minutes.
Uh-huh.
Short one tonight. Yeah, I got to get up early in the morning too.
Oh, ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So get this.
Yeah.
Minute to go. My son is playing in a hockey tournament locally tonight. And I had to leave after the second period. They were leading 2-1. He scores the 3-1 goal and wins MVP of the game.
Nice, man.
I was like, why did I have to miss this? Where the hell, damn show that I got to do. Right?
Yeah. I'm a proud father myself today.
Yeah, you should be. You should be. You told me.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. That's good stuff.
Yes,
Good
sir.
stuff. Thank you tonight to Debaruni ×2, Area 54 for our super chats. And we had some incredible gifting from T-Bone ×2 and AJ for memberships. We greatly appreciate you taking care of our fellow audience members. Let us get going here for hour 3 right now. Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. We have Swamp Dweller and Lee Strauss coming up here momentarily. But first, we want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam is set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. We have tonight, what is it here? Idolism. Idolism is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp.
I lived in the mountains of New Mexico, so there was almost never any people, so it was very quiet. This happened around when I was 8, but I remember it very well. We lived on a lot of land, so I would run and find this old stuff, and one afternoon I wandered around this large rock. The sun was setting, but I was so drawn to this little mini cave I found. I was losing daylight, but I continued my search. I should tell you, I was a very small 8-year-old girl, almost frail. As I climbed in, it was much bigger than it appeared. I wasn't all the way in, I was just at the entrance, but that was enough for me to see a deer, 2 rabbits, and this water-like liquid all over the wall. I just figured they fell in, but how could they? I could barely fit in. I sat there for a while, dumbfounded, just staring at this thing, trying to observe anything I could of this cave. On the other side was another entrance, but it was blacked out, with what looked like a small childlike body, but too skinny, with gray skin. It looked like the skin was also splitting. It almost looked like it had black blood oozing out of it. it only dressed with animal skin. I started to try and leave, but then suddenly it started to rip something. I was trembling. I could hear this thing ripping apart what sounded like an animal. Terrified, but I just couldn't help but look. It just somehow commanded my attention. Blood was being splattered as it ripped apart the animal. With the last bit of daylight, I saw its eyeless socket and one bright orange, almost brown eye, and large animal-like ears, and long, skinny claws emerged from the animal's flesh. It scrambled out and ran back home. I looked back, but the cave was covered with the rocks, but I continued running. When I got home, I didn't tell my mom or my dad, thinking they wouldn't believe me. I live in Colorado now, and I miss the mountains, but not the ones in New Mexico. I still remember the gray skin, the orange eye. But note this, I'm half Native American, so that leaves a few things that this thing could have been. Some people are under the assumption it was a skinwalker. Me, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe somebody in the comments will let me know. I know my story was kind of short, but thank you for sharing it anyway, Swamp.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another spooky story. If you want more just like that, head on over to YouTube, type in Swamp Dweller, hit subscribe, ring that bell. Thousands of stories for you to choose from each and every day and night. From the swamp to Tacoma, Washington. I don't know. Are there any swamps in Tacoma? I don't know. Well, we'll find out. Let's go to Lee Strauss.
Call him extra small, but he's big where it counts. Chasing Bigfoot through the woods on wild accounts. Talking ghosts in the dark, UFOs in the sky. Aliens laughing while they're cruising by. Yeah, Lee Strauss is out there. Hear that cosmic call. He's the legend of Element 115. Aerospace Out Radio's Q&A.
All right, extra small, Lee Strauss. Always a pleasure to have you on this show for the third and final hour. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Dave. Excuse my throat and my cough today, everyone.
Got a little bit of exciting news here.
Oh, yes.
And that exciting news is this. I had a good conversation with our good friend, Tim James, just the other day.
Yeah.
And we were talking just about life in general. And everybody who's listened to the show for a while knows that Tim James had to leave from doing the UFO report and SOR because of health reasons. He had a long, well, let's face it, it's a traumatic brain injury.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that happened a number of years ago. Too many concussions, and over time, it's just kind of affected what he is doing. And he kind of had issues strike up late this past summer, early fall, and that affected obviously what we were doing with Flight 21 and our filming on that on our YouTube channel, as well as, you know, doing Element 115 with you, Lee, on our YouTube channel, and the UFO report here a couple times a week. So yeah, he's been missed a lot. So I went and talked to him the other day, and, you know, just to get an update, he's starting to feel better. He said on a scale of 1 to 10, he's feeling about a 4, but he feels that he's starting to get a little bit more clarity in being able to put sentences together again, which is good. Now, he's still working. He's still doing his daily life, but he had to cut down on a lot of things that were causing him a little bit of stress and so on and so forth. So I asked him point blank. I said, are you going to be able to join us out at Flight 21 for this year on a scale of 1 to 10? And he goes, to be honest with you, I'm probably at a 7. Probably at a 7. I looked at him and I said, are you serious? I was expecting him to say like a 0 or 1, maybe a 2, but a 7. So he's starting to feel better, which is good. And hopefully in 2026 here that we can get him back on track, maybe not on air as much, but hopefully we could get him doing some things, and especially with Flight 21 and our investigations out in that area. And so I just want to give everybody an update, because I get asked a lot, about what has been going on with Tim. So, good for him. I'm pretty happy about that. How about you, Lee? I know you're excited about that.
Yeah, for many reasons. One, because I know that you two are such good friends and live close together, and I really don't want you out there by yourself. That place is way too unpredictable for just you to go out there by your lonesome. I would rather you have somebody like Tim who is familiar with the location out there with you. Not to mention two pointy sticks are better than one.
Oh, very true. And no, I fully agree with you. I went out to Flight 21 once this year alone to pick up the trail cams.
Mm-hmm.
I was freaked out, man. I was freaked out. Now, it's all of a sudden, and people will say, well, it's human nature. You're out in the forest alone. They're in a really bad time of year when animals are foraging for winter. Okay. And animals are in rut season, which makes them more aggressive. And here I am, out there picking up a trail cam. And one of the trail cams, I actually had to go deep into the forest because it was near our gifting site, which is, the first one was nice and close. It was right in our parking area, but the second one, I'm not going to lie, I talked a little bit louder. And you know what I did, Lee? I made a rookie mistake when I did that because I was filming it. Right?
Yeah.
Or so I thought. So old Davey forgot, I guess when I hit play, I must have double tapped my screen. Okay. On the record. And came back and I'm like, no. And I literally had this thought. I'm like, do I go put the camera back and do it again? And I was like, no way. That's when bad stuff happens. That's when you get greedy like that in a place like Flight 21, that's when bad things happen. So I decided against that in doing that. I really did.
You showed me the photos that you got of the kitty back there, and that was not a small cat. That was a pretty large mountain lion. And I would hate to think that you've got your back to the dang thing and it runs up on you. That would be the end.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you carry bear spray when you're back there?
I have bear spray. Yeah.
You do. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to.
Right. I can't because the pointy stick that you do use is so long. I can't. I'm seeing you trying to swing that thing around with a cat coming at you. It might take you a minute to get there. Bear spray would probably be a little bit faster deployed.
Absolutely. I want to show you something here. Changing topics. Okay. Changing topics here for a minute. This one here was put out by a gentleman named Dom Lucre on X. Okay. And this video, I ended up grabbing it from TikTok. Okay. But this is where we're going to be seeing a lot more of this coming up. Now, our radio audience, we're going to explain what we're seeing here to you. So somebody has created a video claiming that a black TR-3B mantis, was flying through the sky over Mexico. And to be honest, it looks real. I want this to be real, but this is so AI.
Oh, yeah.
It is so AI. And the problem that we are going to have, so for people wondering, let me just take a step back here for a second. For someone who maybe doesn't know, a TR-3B is what we refer to as a black triangle. Okay, and this thing, if it was real, it's probably the greatest video of a black triangle we've ever seen. But to me, it looks very much like AI. Just the way it's lighting up, and it's lighting up the sky like it's lightning. It looks absolutely AI driven to me. How about you, Lee?
So just in a couple times that I've watched this now and that you've shown it here, you can see that the halo from the back of it is somehow reflecting in front of the craft on the clouds above it when the light is behind it. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I know it's AI. I can see the way it's producing. Should be a shadow up on the cloud, or there shouldn't be so much light on the clouds in front of the craft.
Well, and my point of playing this video and having this discussion during the show is this. We have talked for about a year now, especially the last year, about how AI is going to kill video evidence. Now, the story behind this video is this. Apparently, there's been military equipment being seen shuffling around all over Mexico. And with that being, or with that happening, it's alleged that, you know, they're potentially preparing for raids and other, you know, violent incidents with cartels coming up. And this all stems coming out of what happened in Venezuela. Okay. Now, without getting down that political road, or I know it's hard for me to say that considering the last 2 hours was quite political. Okay. But this video that was allegedly shot, which I claim to be AI, I'm no expert, but it just looks AI driven to me. Lee, you're more of a knowledgeable person to speak on that because you love the tech and the gear and AI and everything. So that's why I'm valuing your opinion here. Okay. But apparently that this was supposed to be a show of force that the big guys are watching. And we're not talking the aliens. We're talking, you know, Space Force, the United States Air Force, U.S. Navy, so on and so forth. Because one thing that has happened, okay, over the years is during these conflicts, there always seems to be these black triangles show up and people catch them on film. Okay. It happened during the Gulf War in 1991. It happened during many of the conflicts in the Middle East. More recently, it was seen when Russia-Ukraine came out and started their war a couple of years ago. There was black triangles filmed over those areas. And then, of course, when the whole thing blew up between Israel and Palestine, you know, a couple of days in, of course, somebody's got their camera up, and lo and behold, while the missiles are flying over, what's sitting on the side watching this? Hovering a black triangle. Now, I have personally seen 2 black triangles. I know other people who we've had on this show have seen black triangles as well. Lee, I apologize. I can't remember if you've ever seen a black triangle or not, but
I have not.
These crafts seem to show up at very interesting locations, which if this did happen, if this video was real, would it make sense? Possibly would. But the danger that we are going to have, Lee, and I want you to comment on this, is we are now in an era where we cannot trust any videos. It's officially started. People claim that we can't trust experiencers or eyewitness testimony or anything like that. You know, this is the new era where a few years ago, going back a decade or so, it was all about Photoshop. Okay, because photos could be manipulated very easily. We are now in an era where videos can be manipulated through AI so easily that there's just not a video you can trust. Doesn't matter, like me, how much you want to believe, Lee. We just can't do it anymore.
That is the case. We really can't. So what you're looking for, Dave, is a video that has been up on the internet for quite a while, or old footage that military had. Of course, like you say, they can fake it unless it's been posted somewhere long ago, and we have proof that it's been around. Yeah, we can't trust anything that comes out anymore. There's no way. I mean, you think that that's a good video? Can you imagine where AI is in the government and how just technically advanced their stuff is? I can't imagine. That you talk about Project Bluebeam, that whole thing. Well, what if they just came out and said, okay, this is stuff you can't say does not exist or hasn't happened, and it's the size of an aircraft carrier in the sky, and it looks legit, way better than that last video. But like you're saying, you can't trust anything anymore. So, you have to worry about false flags and all of that sort of thing now.
You really do. You really do. And there's no turning back now.
No.
Like it is gone.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is now, what now becomes, at least for me on this, is, how do we as a UFO community try and bring quality evidence back to the table, to the public, if we can't trust what is actually going to be created by people who are more interested in clickbait or more interested in getting the likes and the shares? And let's face it, I mean, you get a million view hit on YouTube, that's a lot of money in your pocket.
Yeah, I think right now, everybody, if you're going out to look for UFOs, you better hope that there's a bunch of people around you that see the same darn thing at the same darn time, and you're capturing it on multiple cell phone cameras or multiple cameras, because you're not going to be able to you're not going to be able to prove the case with a single video. It's just not going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen either. Right. And we need to be able to discern that. And
Mhm.
this is why, in my opinion, and I've talked to a number of trusted ufologists about this as well, as much as it's going to grind the teeth of the UFO community, those who are having eyewitness accounts, whether it's experiential accounts or whether it is just an eyewitness view of something strange hovering over top of you or flying through the trees, or, and it could be a TR-3B, it could be orbs through tree branches, whatever it may be. We have to start relying more on that data again, like pre-internet type data. We don't want to. Okay. We want to be able to have those videos, have those photographs, have audio sounds. But at this point, they are, in my opinion, and I'm curious yours, they are going to be as untrustworthy as eyewitness testimony now.
Yes, they're going to be. I fear for our future. Us. You can call us ufologists. You can say that we're, just you're fly by night, interested in UFO, looking to go see something in the sky, just randomly or up at a hot spot. But I don't see us coming to the public with anything that's going to be believable, no matter what it is.
I just don't see it.
Uh-uh.
I don't see how that's going to happen. And it's a sad day. It's a sad day when that happens. Right? I mean, because you want to. I mean, I want to believe that video so bad, but everything in my brain is telling me, don't fall for it.
You're going to get 50% of the people that say, hey, that thing looks really real. I bet it's real. And then you're going to get 50% of the people that can say, no, it's AI.
You're going to get intuitive people who look into that and say, I picked up that being a Pleiadian ship or a reptilian ship or whatever. And Lord knows that's where the story starts to take off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's difficult. It is something that we're going to have to watch. When we return, on Spaced Out Radio. Film director James Fox is planning a UFO hearing in Washington, D.C. We're going to learn all about this because it's due on January 20th. This is Spaced Out Radio.
This is Spaced Out Radio. Your host, Dave Scott.
All right.
Sorry about that, brother.
Yeah. Ruin my audio with a cough like I've never done that before.
Yeah. Well, there was a question somebody posed here earlier that I thought was pretty good about, let's see if we can find it here real quick. Off topic. In Disclosure Day trailer, what was with the guy in the lab coat that seemed to take over that lady, Spielberg? Is Spielberg saying that the government is using normal people to possess people? I don't think so. I think we're probably talking about like a man in black or something. And people often wonder if those men in black are maybe not some other type of ET. And maybe they have the capability of temporarily taking over our mind.
Could be.
Mhm.
Could be. Please, for the love of everything, okay, to our audience, don't put stock that this movie is some part of Disclosure. I don't know how YouTube is taking away the likes or the thumbs up. I don't know how that's happening. Maybe people just unthumbed. I don't know. Razor, how you doing? Welcome to SOR Chat from New Zealand. That's nice.
That's awesome.
Let me check this out.
Must be early morning.
Oh, wow. We have gone down quite a bit. I was at 114 to 91. I don't know. Look, when you have a guest like Ivan, where you may not agree with his politics, his outlook on things or whatever, okay? People get sensitive over that. They do. George Jetson, how you doing? Right? People get pissed off and sensitive about that. Look, and frankly, to remind people, I have no skin in the game. Okay? I don't. I live north of you, the majority of you. Right? We have our own problems up here. Did I like the way the show went politically? Did I expect that? No. No, I did not. Right? First off, I thought I would let him have his say. And then near the end, I was, trying to get direction in on that. He kept sneaking it in. That's his prerogative. We allow everybody to have different points here. We do. You don't have to like it. I don't have to like it. Did I agree with what he was saying on a lot of it? No. But we have to be able to allow both sides to speak. Now, in the chat room, when the minute politics gets in the chat room, that's where it starts infesting itself. And because it's a highly controversial topic right now, politics all around the world, my country included, it's not a a place for, it's hard for the wrenches. It's hard for me to try and have a modicum of control. Right? We don't have to agree with every guest. And trust me, political views aside, I didn't agree with a lot of what he said. But we have to allow him to be able to say his part. Because that's what we do. We allow people to speak here. Okay? Now, the chat room, it's a modicum of just respect for the people who are in there. Because when you take the politics away, whether you're Republican, Democrat, or Libertarian, or Conservative, or NDP, or Liberal up here in Canada, you take all that shit away, and all of a sudden, the next thing you know, you're enjoying good topics with good friends. Mm-hmm. So let's just remember that. Right? Here we go, everybody. We are into the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We have extra small Lee Strauss getting ready to join us right here on the show for the Q&A. Hey, we want to remind everybody that if you've missed most of this show or others, our archives are always free on YouTube or any major podcast network. You can check out all the good stuff we have on our website, spacedoutradio.com. And, of course, follow us on social media. X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here's extra small Lee Strauss from Element 115 on our YouTube channel. We always appreciate Lee being here. Tip of the cap to you, Lee. How you doing?
I'm doing okay, Dave. I'm working through this nastiness that I've got.
Yeah, just don't send it my way.
No, I'll keep it here in Washington.
Absolutely. Please do. You keep it there. What I heard is if you go for a couple of Frisco Freeze burgers in Tacoma, you will be healthier.
I don't buy that, Dave. I do not. I don't even know what a Frisco Freeze burger is.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
It's a long time ago, going back like 33 years now. Holy cow, is it 32 years? Man, I dated a girl in Tacoma. And she took me to this little burger shack called Frisco Freeze. And it was one of those burgers that the recipe hadn't changed in like 50 years at that point. Okay. Yeah. And it's like there's no place to sit. They got a couple of picnic tables. I think it's by the AAA baseball stadium.
Okay.
Somewhere around there. And you go there and they put your burgers in paper bags, and literally you can watch the grease sink into the paper. And to me, that signifies a great burger. It really does. I mean, a burger needs grease. You know what I'm saying?
It absolutely does. It has so much flavor from it sitting in the vat for
absolutely
weeks on end.
Let's find out where it is. Hold on. Frisco Freeze hamburger restaurant. Okay, you're in Tacoma. Where are we here? Where what street is it on? It's on. Get this. It's right across the street from Caribou Coffee on Division Ave.
That's still open.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It closes at 1 a.m. Closes at 1 a.m. Pacific time. See, you could boot on out and get a Frisco Freeze burger right after this show.
I'll be going to bed, my friend.
I know. Usually you're in bed by like 7:02 p.m. Literally.
This guy.
Pacific time. That's right. Anyways, back to the UFO story. back to the UFO story. So, film director James Fox, who has created documentaries like The Phenomena and Moment of Contact, well, he's planning on hosting a UFO press conference in Washington, D.C., with witnesses, experts, and members of Congress. Now, this event will take place January 20th at the National Press Club from 11 to 1 p.m. Brazilian firsthand witnesses of a crashed UFO and live non-human beings. So that'll be about the Varginha case. And then from 2 to 3 o'clock, after an hour's break for lunch and maybe a spot of tea, American insiders on crash retrievals, biologics, call for immunity to whistleblowers. So basically, what he wants to do is gather the press, gather the UFO world to come together and start having some open discussions in this, much like, in my opinion, it almost looks the same as what Dr. Stephen Greer did in the 1990s. What's your thoughts on this, Lee?
I just wrote that down. Exactly that. It sounds like pretty much the same thing. The only thing that I did not see in there is that we would have any, retired people from inside, like inside the Beltway type people. I don't think that it's mentioned in there at all. Where Greer did have, he had a lot of those retired people in there. So, but it's a good idea. Why not? Let's see if we can't get a couple more people to come out. I mean, so many people are coming out right now anyway. It might as well see what more information we can gather. It helps us, right? Maybe something will be said that we can use to look for information on the internet or wherever and dig up. So let it happen. Absolutely.
I think with the respectability that James Fox shows this subject, and look, you don't have to like his movies. I particularly have found them very much more aimed towards people who are new to the topic than people who are actually involved in the topic. And he does put a good story together. He really does. And I've talked to him once on the phone, and he was very cordial and very kind to talk to. Am I a fan of his as a person? Absolutely. Absolutely, I am. Okay. I hope that he gets the response that he's looking for. I don't know if the press will actually show up. There will be a few reporters that are there to cover it, and that is great. But I don't know if you're going to get the big networks, whether it's CNN or Fox or MSNBC or the Wall Street Journal or Washington Post or whomever. I don't know. But at this point, is this, in your opinion, kind of like a citizen hearing for what we are not seeing in the congressional hearings?
Well, I do think it would be more of a citizen hearing. I would expect there to be a lot more glitz and glam in this one, rather than what we've been seeing in the House and in Congress, right? So why not? It's obviously they're going to make a movie out of the darn thing or something. That's another reason to do this is so that you can get that information out to a wider audience by recording everything and setting it up and making an actual documentary type thing out of it, which is smart, especially if some other people come forward that we had no idea about. It's a good idea as long as it's not taken too far, right? And a bunch of people aren't trying to make a bunch of money on it. It always bothers me when people are trying to make money off of this phenomena. I know people write books and sell books and stuff like that, but there's a lot of people that they want this to be their bread and butter, and I just don't. I don't understand by using other people's stories how you can do that to make money for yourself. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't like people that capitalize upon other people.
I don't think James Fox is the kind of guy who does that, but I do think he is trying to get the word out and figuring, since Congress is not, and I'm just assuming no inside information here, but if I were in James Fox's shoes, I'd be like, we're not getting the answers from these congressional hearings. And in fact, I think most of us could realize that these congressional hearings have been beyond frustrating. By the questions that Congress is asking, by the guests who they are asking to come in and speak, who really haven't given up many answers whatsoever. And I think this is his opportunity to say, you know what, I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to try and get this together and see what we can do in order to gain some interest where good questions, maybe even pointed questions, can be asked. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I think this is a better way of going about it. I definitely do. That way you get so much more engagement from such a larger body of people. If you had a panel of individuals and then you start talking about something and somebody else picks up on that and goes, oh yeah, that reminds me. Those sorts of things are very, very valuable. When you can go ahead and, basically tell your story and then other people says, oh yes, and then they can add to it. And that sort of thing just seems to bloom, right? And then all of a sudden you've got 6 people out of 10 that are like, oh yes, there was this thing, or I remember that detail now that you said what you just said. And it's all put out in with that sort of mindset in place. It's just a benefit for everybody.
It really is a benefit to everybody. So we're going to see how that goes. We're going to monitor that situation as well, just to see how this is going. Now, David Grush came out recently and he was talking, on a newsy podcast recently with Megyn Kelly, just about the UFO subject, about the cover-ups that are going on. And it really, really sparked another big debate led by a Freedom of Information Act inquiry by John Greenwald from the blackvault.com, where basically it was whether or not, Grush has the ability to be doing this or not. And it questioned whether his security clearance, how it was gone. Apparently, Stephen Greenstreet from the New York Post said there was 63 pages about why his top secret clearance was taken away. But we also know that his security clearance had been given back as well. We haven't heard from David Grush, who I would say is a whistleblower. And you know how much I do not like that term. But I would say he is a whistleblower, a no-proof whistleblower, if you want hardcore proof. But a whistleblower nonetheless, because he's opened our eyes up to a lot of the back dealings of this subject, if it's 100% true. I'm curious about your thoughts about him coming out in public again, because usually when he comes out, and he hasn't done it often in the last couple of years, but when he comes out and speaks, there's usually some UFO news that follows right behind it.
Well, the fact that he hasn't come out in public in a while makes me wonder if he's been co-opted. If somebody's gotten to him, that's my fear. We don't know what happens behind the scenes. A lot of people will come out with, great information right from the get-go. Next time they come out, it seems like their soul's been ripped out. Like something's been taken away from a lot of these people. And I don't know if they, get threatened or their families get threatened or something has happened behind the scenes that we don't know about. But that's my fear for him.
And it makes sense. It makes sense about that because we're always on the lookout, but it really goes to show too that, outside of the UFO drama that takes place on X, we're so microscopic with everybody and every word that everyone says in this field. We're analyzing that if they make a spelling error in a word, well, this guy's an idiot because he spelled they th instead of theteh, the word the, not they. I apologize. Okay, so I find that very interesting with how we overanalyze every bit of minutia of this subject, and I never get to use the word minutia, so I figured I would drop it in there. Lee, how do you like that?
I think the clam needs to open with that one. Well, my friend, I think you're right. There's a lot of people that have little disabilities, and Grush is one of those individuals, and myself also am one. I've got dyslexia, but you can't, because a person has some sort of disability or something that he's misspelled wrong, doesn't mean that what he saw or what they experienced or what she experienced was any less than somebody else that spelled everything in their, description correctly. So just because somebody's a little different doesn't mean anything. David Grush is a very truthful person. You can tell that by how he conducts himself, and he's listing code after code after code. He's very robotic that way. He knows everything frontwards and backwards. And so if a lot of people would see that that's a benefit, where others can say, especially naysayers can say, well, he's got some issue. We can't believe what he says. Does that make any sense to me? Heck no, it doesn't. Not at all.
Do you think, let me ask you this then, because we have 5 minutes to go. Do you get the feeling that I get? Because for people who don't understand Lee is not in the commotion of the UFO world. I like to think of you as an observer.
Mm-hmm.
You're like a, pun intended, because our logo is an owl, but you're like a wise owl who's sitting on a branch, just watching and taking in everything that you see. Has ufology, in your opinion, or UAPology, whatever way you want to look at it, has it become just a witch hunt now?
In a lot of ways, it's become a witch hunt. I mean, the government, somebody in the DOD, we at least that's what I believe. Somebody in the DOD is running this thing behind the scenes, where they are trying to shut everything down before it gets into the public eye. And so they're trying to figure out who's going to be the next whistleblower so that they can get to them before they get out and speak to people like yourself or Jeremy Corbell or whoever it is. And there's those group of people that seem to be in the public as well, Dave, that will just wait for somebody to come out, and then they try to just dissect that person. And what they do is they dissect their past, they dissect their Facebook, they dissect anything that they can come across with that individual at all, just so they can say, see, there's a problem with that person. I mean, it is so wrong. It really is just, it's horrible to do to people. And then, once they find something, it's out and it's everywhere.
It really is. It really is. And I wonder if, in that cesspool of X, okay, because that's usually where most of it happens. Okay. I think what we need to realize is, there is a large war of words going on. There truly is a large war of words going on. daily basis. Many people believe that a lot of these people who are pro or con UFO are actually paid informants of getting the information out. Well, maybe not informants, paid advertisers to get the information out. And when I say paid advertisers, I'm not talking about, the CIA or the NSA or whoever coming up to you and saying, hey, Leon Element 115, here's $25,000 if you say this black TR3B video is real. Okay. I'm not saying that, but the way they are paying is with information.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'll give you a little bit here. Here, you didn't hear it from me, but here's a tip for you. And if you run with this one, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to get you more inside scoops of what's going on. Well, for those who aren't journalists, but they are citizen journalists or podcasters, citizen podcasters or whoever, they look at that. Oh my God, I got an insider. This guy's trusting me with this information. I'm going to run with it. It's free advertisement to steer the narrative wherever you want.
That's you took the words right out of my mouth. That is steering the narrative. Exactly. That we have to constantly worry about that because it's happened in the past. I mean, we have evidence where, it's happened before, and I'm sure it's going to continue to keep happening because sometimes the more outlandish they can make something sound, the less people are likely to believe it. And because it sounds so outlandish, everything else that person says is in question too. So watch out.
That's about it. Watch out. I like how you did that. Watch out. That was nice. That was very, very nice. Lee, tell everybody where they can find Element 115.
I'm sorry I wasn't on tonight, guys, but my throat is on fire. You will see me right here on Spaced Out Radio next Friday night between 8 and 11. And, come on in and hang out for an hour and we'll have a good time.
I always like it when you're here, buddy. It's always so much fun to talk to you. Why don't you go and get some rest? Because I know you're not feeling well. Put your feet up, maybe give yourself a nice warm blanket with a pillow and go lay down on the couch and watch some TV. You did well tonight. Thank you, bud.
Thank you.
All right, Lee Strauss, everybody. As we say goodnight to Lee and hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. The seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Good job, Extra Small.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
I appreciate you.
I'm gone. I'm out of
All right,
here.
buddy.
Later.
Talk to you soon, okay? Go
Yep.
get better. All right. Aren't you gone? There he goes. All right, quickly here. Hello to number 49 in your program. Starting at right wing tonight from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. There he is. Emperor Penguin, how are you doing? Who else? Little Cam on YouTube. So late for tonight's show. If you want to know why he was late, he was doing literally 5 sets of 50 shoulder presses tonight at 480 pounds. His arms are tired. He couldn't work his phone in order to get here early. He actually finished his workout about 3.5 hours ago. But his arms are so tired he couldn't work the thumbs. Poor guy. Dave might stop and get an iced tea and sausage and egg McMuffin. You can't before 4 o'clock in the morning because it'd be like breakfast for a late night meal. That doesn't work. Breakfast is for breakfast. It's not for dinner. It's not for lunch. It's not for a late night snack. Okay. You're best to go with a 1/4 pounder with cheese, extra onions. That's always a good choice. Just saying. I miss anybody else here? Jeffrey Green. Oh, yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Hillbilly Herb, how you doing? I don't recall seeing you in the chat room. I was more concentrated on the guest night. There's Terry Hall's mustache again. Okay, everybody give a rounding applause to Terry Hall and his beautiful mustache. Hold on 1 second here. I guess I could bring the microphone over here. Why be an asshole like that? All right, there we go. 10, 9, 26. Well, that's 8, 9, 26. Yeah, that's what I wanted right there. Oh, right. Questions, comments, concerns? Hit me up with anything. Hey, whoever timed out Bad Cop, did he get booted, or did he just get timed out? Lex Diaz, how you doing? I needed to improve the camera angle. Not happy with the camera angle right now. Gotta try and get it a little bit closer. I'm gonna have to work on that. Just finishing. Do. All right. There we go. Now it's ready. Give me 2 seconds, guys. All right, good. Got that going. All right. There we go. Now we're ready. All right. I think I'm shaving off my beard next week. I'm going to bring it down to skin level. Get rid of all of this. I'm tired of it. Winter's probably not the best time to do it. But I think it's time. No, I won't go clean shaven. My head will look like a walrus if I end up going clean shaven. A walrus without the tusks. Oh, that's true, Terry Hall. I might just get it trimmed back a little bit. Not shaving my eyebrows. No, not shaving my eyebrows. So last night after the show, usually I take a page out of Nicole Sakich's playbook and I go eat some peanut butter after the show. It wasn't until at least about 2:00 today that all I could smell was peanut butter. And yeah, I brushed my teeth, I showered, I washed my hair, I even conditioned it. I did. Washed my beard too. As I'm sure you would all hope that I did. Hi, Captain K-Rod. Is it a memory smell? Is that what it is? Nicole, do you get that too? That can't be it. That can't be it. That's going to take it down to like 18 minutes. Maybe not. What is it? No, there was no peanut butter in my beard, or in my ears. Deb, I leave you and peanut butter with your dog. All to you, baby. All to you. I mean, I love peanut butter. I do. I love peanut butter. I don't like that watery kind of peanut butter. And I'll tell you right now, you know, there's some crazy people out there who actually like peanut butter with like peanuts in it. That chunky peanut butter, whatever the hell they call it. That's horrible stuff. I don't know how people can do that. That just seems weird and odd. Not under my nails. Like I said, I showered this morning. Not shaving my eyebrows, Nicole. Not shaving my eyebrows. Why do you guys want me to shave my eyebrows? Leave. All right, let's go here. Give me 2 seconds here. I'm going to be eating breakfast burritos tomorrow. Tomorrow's a McDonald's morning. Maybe I'll just leave a mustache. What time is the next game for my son? I got to be up in 6.5 hours. 6.5 hours? Yeah, 6.5 hours. No, he's got to be at the rink at that time. Shit. I got to be up at 6, so 5.5 hours. All right, everybody. There will be no shows this weekend because I'm still trying to get organized with a bunch of stuff here business wise. My son has a hockey tournament. So be safe out there. Big thank you tonight to Tim Mothman and his goatee, Deborah Rooney ×2, Area 54, and Shogun for the super chats. Thank you to everybody who gave us a shout out. Little bit different show than what we are used to here. But don't forget, we will be back on Monday. We will. I will be here. I want all of you to be here. Do us a favor. Leave a comment after the show. and we'll see you then. You guys have a great one. Much love to each and every one of you, and see you next week.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.